so I'm not yet sure how to go about this. I could go for the secret ending and show the path leading to the other endings. I can't do the other endings if I do the secret ending at the same time. That's probably how I would do it. I don't remember how Diff ways to do the secret ending, so we'll see. But I will ask about it. These are the 3 paths laid out before you. I have prepared rich gifts for you, if you will but sing which you will follow. Chase not after shadows, and be not afraid. Choose. I choose a different way. Are ye so proud that you would reject the answers found by those who have survived turnings beyond your imagination? Do you desire a difference for its own sake? Are ye caught in a thought trap such as the notaires fall into, in which you sacrifice so much for nothing but assurance of your own uniqueness and own superiority? If you turn from the 3, you shall receive no power from me, my Fang. Choose and gain my blessings. I choose the 4th way. At last you see it, the 4th way, the dreaming door. Beyond it lies the great treasure. You are certain of nothing else, but that is enough. The voice of the spirit surrounds you. Only one who has walked all of the myriad pathways and gathered all the 20 keys may challenge the dreaming door. No one drag might tread all of the roads, gain all of the keys. But this is not your first life as a drag, nor your last. Many times have you been created, and many times destroyed. Many other realities which have been etched into your claw prints. When the 20 thin keys are yours, and the 10th degree of the 4 are attained, the door shall appear. The sacred numbers which I have given to my children shall become the final test. The first is given to the weavers, the second shines silver, and the third was swallowed. So we know that this was a bird. That's what I mentioned that was related to the secret. The weaver you find in the first chapter, there's a spider that sings, and it's in like it's out of the B. What is it? It's not, because it's not Morse code. It's like what blind people use. Either way, it's in blind language, so you have to translate it from that. Not sign language, obviously. It's the dots, whatever. And the second shines silver. I don't know where the silver is, to be honest, right now. Go then and know that if you dare to transgress the dreaming door, you shall at last lose everything. You wake much later, sun is dying, and you know better than to be here. I think we had this one already. You, I fear you, the heat, the light, the burning, come to the fire mountain. Force flare, lair. Be prepared for triumph and gain much. Yeah, I remember this one. Brielle, yes. Interesting enough, I didn't get the compassion one, which is kind of a pain. Because I was gonna do that one. I'm also like super OP on this because I already have the secret ending, so I'm effectively invulnerable, which makes this a lot easier. For the numbers, I'm just gonna have to look up the numbers. I don't like, even the first time, even when I got the secret ending, I never thought of Brielle because translating Brielle is actually really fucking hard. So I just looked up the numbers. I did everything else that you have to do, but I can do this. Exhausted and cold by the end of the long sky path which has brought you here. The chill, though stubborn, is wiped away by the smell of earth, fire, and air, and crystal water coming together. A glowing taste fills the nearby clouds. This is a territory claimed by the many times burned, paragonal dragon people. The tales surrounding that area are many. Some say that its body was burned to charcoal in the core of the void. Its bones burst and red cracked, but its mind was so strong that it knit itself back together again. though the pain of the exploding moment never receded. Others say that its mind was torn from it by circumstances too outrageous to understand, but that its essence was so mighty that it was able to survive through sheer force of will. No one dares to claim that its essence is what was broken and incinerated by reality. That would be either a blasphemous falsehood or if too horrible to consider. Landing on the mountain, you roar out a song of annunciation. Hardly any time at all passes before you are greeted by a strange bear tail, its essence a lurid blaze against the heat. If you recall way back, I met this guy in the first dungeon. 3 and 3 make 6, 9 and 1, 0, if and is interpreted differently. By the enlightened mind I bear, be welcome, mighty kin, in the name of the undying master. This one is never ever, envoy of the sun shadow, the put together and apart, the many times burned. Is the fourth layer of the master not beautiful? Behold, earth reaches out of the great above through her burning essence, for the great above through her burning essence. Is it sun that she yearns to become with, or the void? One wonders. You expect it below, the way is steep, take care not to harm your magnificent body, yet. Never ever leads you to a place where the air itself seems to be constantly melting. Though you are kin, one who bears a fragment of sun's fire within you, you are nonetheless uncomfortably hot. That bear tail is able to survive here at all. That the bear tail is able to survive here at all is astonishing. Far, far down, you can make out a shape within the essence of Earth herself. It is so huge that at first you mistake it for a dark hill among the radiance, but no. Behold our master imperishable. Even the great mother's own blazing belly juices can no longer dissolve its hallowed body. And behold the proving pit, fourth layer of the paragon of fire. Know this, many come and few leave. We do not threaten, but only advise, great kin. Tell us, why have we come here? To win treasure, to test my might, to meet the many times burned. If you do not indeed possess both ability and the will to survive, then you will not have come in. If you do indeed possess both ability and the will to survive, then you will not have come in vain. However, you are not the only aspirant, great kin. Many wait in the chambers. Most have come to beg an audience with the master. The master's time is valuable, and the ephemeral and soon gone are unworthy of all. In his unfathomable wisdom, the Great One has created a means by which one might earn such a rare treasure, and others besides. In descending through the spiral walk, you shall encounter the beholden. Each one holds treasure of one kind or another, and will not suffer the weak to pass. If you destroy your opponents, then you are entitled to its trove. Whether you seize the treasure or not, though, victory shall bring you further down, closer to the master. Should you, young as you are, prove stronger than all others, then you shall reach the base and become worthy of the invulnerable one's attention. Be twice aware the master has witnessed all which transpires here. Only its body sleeps, only the body. There is no room here for shallow and false compassion. Survival reigns supreme in the pit, with wisdom a welcome guest. All other virtues shall be voice separating yourself from success. Though you may leave and return to continue to descend at any time, if you wish to do so during a dance of destruction, a ransom must be paid, 10 shiny things to add to your opponent's trove. Are you prepared to descend? Yes. Welcome, great kin, to my chamber, first of them all, but for many the last. I am unforgetting, the Eternal One who has granted me privilege of teaching those who would brave the descent, the peril of their choice. Before we dance, answer, how many limbs have I? Many. I can sense it. Many. One in body, but many in essence. Turning beyond turnings ago, some from among the kin sacrifice their limbs to survive the skyfall. We, the tailless beasts, are their descendants. My people have forgotten what it was to run, to fly, to breathe out destruction upon others, to reign. Most kin saw us as fallen, as degenerate, as food, but the great burning one saw us as beautiful. We were willing to sacrifice all for the sake of survival. The great one gifted me, greatest of warriors among my tribe, with a sliver of its eons deep soul, and I remembered all, and became the unforgetting. I remembered the kin essence which slept away inside me. I remembered that what was lost may be regained. Dance with me now, and as one who aspires to be what you are, I yearn to become you. Show me the fire, the essence of your kin. You must now prepare yourself for the dance of destruction. You cannot retreat from this fight. Stand with pride and honor. It said you could retreat, but I guess I can't. Unit will use an air ability. Well, you did severe damage. I'm fucking strong. This is the power, this is the strength. It is such a rare honor to fight a true kin, within and without. I love myself before you. You may pass. You have won the right to continue your descent. However, you may continue the dance until true destruction if you wish to take the Guardian's treasure. It seems so unforgetting. The mostly till beast has a small pile of shiny things. There are nearly as many as you have teeth. I will pass. Have you understood the lesson in flesh, which is here beheld? Sacrifice. One can never achieve greatness without understanding the nature of sacrifice. If one is unwilling to abandon one's trove, one's prey, even one's own idea of oneself, then survival is impossible, and without survival, all is silence. The Tilbeast people were wise indeed to do as they did. The loss of the limbs was a small price to pay for the priceless treasure called life. Do you wish to continue the ascent, O kin? If so, I will heal you some of your wounds. If not, then leave and return when you are ready. Yes, I'm ready to dance again. Never Ember chambers up your body and licks your injuries. The saliva burns like sun, but amazingly your wounds begin to close. It is time to face your next challenge. I am rent, and I am bloom. Together we are violent. Like a holy flame, the Dark Master burned away my insides. Like a great wave, the Everlasting One washed away my desires. We have been blessed. Oh, how we have been blessed. When one carries too much within, one becomes heavy and slow, weak. Hesitation, misjudgment, arrogance, kindness. You must empty yourself of them until only what is needed remains. You look heavy, so complicit inside and out. We will fix you, we will tear away the excess, we will make you light. They're like spirit lines, are like connecting to each other. The redolent essence of violence dances on your tongue. You are less burdened than you appeared. So little hesitation, so few contradictions. You are clean, you are light. You have proven yourself to the Guardians, who now rules protectively over a small collection of shinestone and gems of various kinds. They are more than you have teeth. I mean, you guys are kind of a lame, so let's eat you. Does the guest see weakness within us? Has it found complicit heaviness inside? Tear it all away until the void shines through. I think I might actually be like literally invulnerable. I don't think I can take damage, so. The light which hides behind the darkness. The darkness which hides behind the light. We see it at last, we see. End them and claim their bodies and wishes for yourselves. The feathers take a little walk to get past, but the chest fletch is clean and light, so very light. The treasure is a bit heavier though. in a good way. Did you understand, great kin? One may be two, and two may be one. We carry many burdens within ourselves. A few we need, or we would come apart. But most clutter and cloud the water pool of the mind and the body. If there's something weighting you down, leave it behind, then all of your dances shall be light and graceful, true, final. Come, next Herod awaits. Essence, essence, I smell we must not, but it hurts, the pain we feel, total agony. No, go away. You do not want what you think you want. This is not, was never a blessing, a curse. It was always a curse. I should never have come here, never should have asked. I am become a curse. The master is a curse upon. You do not want this. It is not too late for you. Flee away, far away. Now go away. No, no, not another one. Please, you don't deserve. Nothing deserves to become this. Beg, I beg, end me and fly away. Not too late for you. The anguish, torment, only wanted to be strong. Unlike the previous members of the Boyden, Agony does not seem to have a pile of treasure to call its own. A few scraps of shinestone are scattered on the floor near the bars. It seems that it has thrown away its trove. The shinestone band on its leg, however, smells very interesting. The shinestone band on its leg, however, smells very interesting. And Agony's torment forever. Thank you, please, do not stop. Do not stop until... Wow, it actually wounded me. That's impressive. It actually wounded me. Please, save me from this. Pass on, leaving the once good beast to unending torment. Fulfill Agony's wish, destroyed. As the tortured essence flees the broken body, the pain drains from Agony's eyes. The chamber is quiet at last. The flesh of your opponent is sour but bracing. The limb smell is fascinating. Has it too been enkindled? Painkiller brace. This was created by the many times burned as a gift for the lumberer Agony. Shall I tell you an interesting story as we descend farther, O guest? Once there was a lumberer who was small and weak, as its kind reckoned such things. Its prey was often stolen by others. It was never chosen as a creation partner, and it rarely knew peace. It learned, however, to achieve victory by unorthodox means. But it continued to envy the strong, the seemingly safe, those chosen to create. And so it made the journey here. Employing all of its resources, it defeated the Beholden and arrived before the Great Master itself. There it expressed its wish to be the very strongest of its kind. The Undying One generously granted its request, enkindling it to make it more fearsome and deadly than any other. As a final gift, the lumberer was granted the Painkiller, a shinestone brace which, when affixed, grants immense strength at the low, reasonable cost of constant pain. Despite the fact that Lumberer had specifically stated that it would pay any price to have its wish fulfilled, the pain was too much for its weak mind to cope with. It insisted on meeting the Overlord once more, this time to request that the brace be removed and its body restored to its original state. The impertinence of such an ungrateful request. Still, it was judged that the Great One would grant it another audience, everywhere to serve and survive, as one of the Beholden, and so it was confined to a chamber. Its mind, however, continued to deteriorate under the strain of constant anguish. Eventually, everything else was burned, melted away, until only the agony was left. An amusing story, is it not? I have no doubt that a kin such as yourself would understand the lesson to be learned from it. He's a fucking psychopath, that's what I learned. I'm sure there's a lesson here. Let's think about it. Careful for what you wish for. Don't trust dragons. Don't trust them many times burned. There's probably a reason he gets burned so much. Your ascent is progressing. It seems as though you were near the bottom of the caldera. Even before you enter the next chamber, where you're struck by a strange odor. It reminds you of the tailless, but it is not nearly as noisome. It might be compared to soil water on grey, cold slate, which has been trod upon by many no-till feet. This seems to not have a till, but it's definitely a completely different kind of common tailless, which you have known. It's larger, stronger, purer. Its mind song is slightly veiled behind a layer of mental deference, but what you can understand of its legend is not without a certain beauty. O past enthroned encompasser of sky and ground, openly. Wait, it wasn't the rat who did it, it was the dragon who did it. Openly I recognize your puissance. I am known as the last, as yours, my species, has similarly been disenfranchised by tragedy. However, even the storied Skyfire was anemic in comparison to the living tide which drowned my compatriots, such that solitude alone is my companion. There is no destitution or poverty like that of mine, for the very future has been torn away. Though I carry the sacred potential of nascent life within my form, there is none to awaken it. Know therefore that I have no fragility, no feebleness, none can be afforded. The grand survivor below represents the final hope of my entire gene type. Allow me to display the martial powers for which the enforcers were in. Jesus Christ, it's actually kind of impressive that these guys still can harm me. Because, I would say, I tested the lava thing. I didn't even take any damage by going through the lava for the Vantage mating scene, so that these guys can do damage to me is quite impressive. Indeed, your potence was undeniable, even among the multitudes aspirant encounters in this singular location. It may candidly be described as remarkable. I respectfully request that you progress without further conflict. My need for continued survival is not personal, but rather the clothing desperate wish of a departed Mariots. For the benefit of us both, only tragedy can possibly result from the annihilation of either of our existence. This being is exceptionally strong in every way, and the last of its kind. It is, however, in possession of a larger pile of treasure. It must be near to purchasing the favor of the many times burned. I'll hope to remain for a forgotten people. Move on. I don't like extinction, so I'm not gonna extinct the race. The Enforcers, forgotten third spawn of the others. They were created to keep the diverse and the surface tailless balanced, checked. Even the others must have underestimated the ingenuity and ruthlessness of the no-tails. After all, if they had not, they would have made the Enforcers stronger, or perhaps they would never have made the no-tails to begin with. How different Ursa's body would be now, if only such had been. Apologies for boring you with my musings, great warrior, for such you surely are, even among such strong people as a Draken. Your next opponent is a final force standing between you and the Blackened One. It is very, very strong. If you choose to face it now, I shall hear you completely, but be warned, there is no fleeing from it. It has never known true defeat. Face the final guardian. It is time. There it lies, many times burnt, paragon of fire. Its body, it is like its essence is trying to explode out of the blackened, torn, bladed, half-severed flesh, like a hatchling struggling through the wall. The heat is searing. You can feel the feathers smoldering upon your crown. Yes, it is so. It is not the mountain's essence which warms the master. It is the master which warms the mountain. And even all the world in its way. Its justice, its purity, it purges, cleans. To be sworn to the service of such a terrible force must be the greatest honor of my people has ever known. When I was enkindled, it was like being mated by sun itself. For hundreds upon hundreds of turnings I have learned the deepest lessons, braved horrors unimaginable, committed crimes against life itself, and in doing so have become victorious over life's shadow, destruction. The undying beast has made it known that it does not wish to be disturbed lightly. It is therefore my duty to be the final gate. You shall know the meaning of my name, which I sang into the face of the void when it attempted to claim me, and failing, asked when I would surrender to the dark. Never, ever. Cannot retreat from this fight. My UI is fucked up. You deal severe damage. Incredible heat from... Never ever blast you with a terrible mind scream. Never deal serious damage to you. You deal light damage. Never ever. Incredible heat from never ever is hot. Even by drag standards, and battling is deeply uncomfortable. The air grows richer with fear and despair. Your enemy is now injured. This is very confusing. This fight is actually really epic when you are like not invulnerable. Never ever generates a small burst of flame which blinds you. I remember doing this fight the first time and I was like, I almost died. It was honestly really tense. It's kind of destroying me. There we go. Enough. You warrior of my people. I have dreamed a dream, a nightmare. I have turned on the time and tasted its viscera. Behold, this is the future of Earth, should the tailors prevail. Thin sandstone mountains shall crowd together, greed hives for a people blind to the glow of essence. Our green blue void shall be trapped, tangled in weaver webs which enslave lightning and force it to labor for those who do not even know they are alive. Air itself shall be smothered by dark cloud, vomited forth from narrow mouths. The grey blue shall drown and waste, a black rainbow outrage poured upon its surface, barren slit swallowing the last memories below. Our people, the true children of above and below, shall be gone, and worse than gone. We shall become fantasies for the notaires to prove their power to themselves. And the immortal spirit of the green, which should rightfully outlast us, shall die. I alone stand before the oncoming storm. I and the warriors who will join me to wipe out the seed of the others and all of their works. The green has taught you well. You are strong. You are a warrior. But strength alone does not deliver us. Only by being as fierce and bright as the great sun, and as cold and dark as the infinite void, may we endure. The violent soldiers melted together and purified of all details, one of my many works of art. They were made to be destroyed. The end was a perfect punctuation of their existence. I praise your aesthetic sense. Agony, the one who witnessed its greatest wish come true and become strong, stronger than any lumberer. Could there ever be a greater curse than to outlive one's own delusions? To find it at the end, that one dearest wish was not at all what it was thought to be. One should wish only for life, only to be. Any other wish carries the seeds of one's own undoing. You were most just to bring it a final end. I praise your correctness of action. My senses are spread out upon earth, and I've tasted, smelled the essence of my fellow kin. I've judged them. Some are true warriors, emblems of truth and justice. Some are degenerates, enamored of themselves and unable to do what must be done. And some have not yet chosen which to be. You are the later kind, your path is unchosen. Heed well the lesson you have learned here. Both compassion and cruelty are illusions. There's only two paths for the drag. The way of justice, of the clean, clear mind, and strength of the body. Of strength of body and essence leads to life, and all other ways to destruction. Behold my truth. I am free from hatred and partiality. I feel nothing and love nothing but life itself. I have been blackened by the heart of the great sun, and I have delved down to the very core of earth itself. Though torn and defiled, my true name is hope. Leave me, I must rest and prepare. Never ever leads you to a strange way leads you by a strange ways back to the crest of the surface. Few indeed can claim to have been worthy of the attention, however brief, of one such as many times burned the paragon of fire. Your name shall be spoken in awe by many. But even such strength as you have shown here is nothing in awe to the many times burned. In a sense, all of this would exist at its discretion. There is no being bound by flesh which is more powerful upon all of blessed earth. But voids can change and become new voids. Does the one song itself, to which even the sun and earth are but tiny beings, know what should be? Interesting. I guess he did not like me that much, because he can give you an artifact. But he did not. Probably because I spared too many people. But he's a cunt, so who cares? There you are, my beloved. I taste your essence here in the dreaming. It is cool and deep and soothing. Yes, you are ready, beloved. Come to the hardwood, sadwood and wormwood form your lands. Come to me on the far side of a new journey, tiny and yet vast. I wait you, with a rare treasure in my mouth. Come. Upon awaking, you feel uncomfortable dryness, as though you had been drawn out of an embracing, breathable sea against your will to a harsh and hot wasteland. Somehow, though, you now know the place where Allmother, last of the Crystal Clan, waits for you. So I did unlock this, at least from that. Is it dreaming? Is it waking? Is it even possible to tell the difference? Does it know why it has come? Is it ready? Here at the edge of a scent-heavy, misty grove, you have met a strange beast. It seems to be a blazetail, but unlike any you have ever seen. It is crowded within, as though more than one voice speaks through its mouth, and though more than one will sees through its eyes. Is it confused? Does it need reassurance? Does it not know that this is the One Wood, the unified forest, home of the Elder which extends beyond, the one whom all are beloved, the All-Mother? The last of the Crystal Clan, sundered yet bound to all things. Should we hint at the fact that with the last of its relations destroyed, it chose to adopt all beings. From the tiny to the great, it is shit, can this guy use different cursive? Should we hint at that with the last of its relations destroyed, it chose to adopt all beings, from the tiny to the great, as its own hatchlings, and to see their fortunes as its own. And more importantly, dare we reveal the existence of the grand design, which all shall be healed, and orphans at last shall have their deepest desires fulfilled. Indeed, impossible as it may seem, everything in the forest shares a certain scent, as though everything here has merged. Is this place of harmony and unity the most perfect forest which has ever existed, or is it a living blasphemy against individualism? A few among your kin regard the Elder known as Allmother as an enlightened, transcendent being. Others see it as a dangerous heretic, a spreader of untruths, which would degrade and weaken the kin if they were embraced. Is it ready? Shall we summon Allmother to commune with it? Yes. It will take some time for Allmother to arrive. Would our guest be displeased if we were to entertain it until the Great One arrives? The blazetail begins to dance, slowly turning, swirling its luxurious tail this way and that, though its golden eyes never leave yours. It's beautiful, unlike any dance you've ever seen. And then the song begins. Long, long ago, a kin, a two-side of heaven and earth, was reposing in the shadows of the forest, when suddenly there came a running along here with a blazetail close behind. Save me, O mighty kin, said the long ear. This blazetail would rend apart my flesh and destroy me utterly. I wish to live, I wish to feel the wind in my fur and the sun on my face. I wish to create so that there may be many long here to taste the fruits of earth and fill the bowels of earth with warmth and love. If I am destroyed, so my relations under the good green hill will first worry and then fear and then despair. Not knowing what has become of me, my siblings and my creators will never again know true peace, hoping forever for my return. I am innocent. I have brought harm nor pain to others. I am afraid. Do not let silence overtake me. I love life. I love life. And in that moment the great kin awakened to a new truth. For it too loved life, and feared destruction. It smacked the same essence, the same spark within the long ear that it had within itself, and once it found the long ear and itself to be one and the same, it felt compelled to act. Fear not, gentle long ear, sang the kin to the trembling good beast. You shall not be destroyed, the sun, for now I know that I am you and you are I. Place of beginning, many selves, all I, love all as I. Read Walker selves, other selves, I am them, they are I, helping, feeding, bringing, moving. Many bodies, one essence, beautiful, powerful, wide. Love them all. Read eggs. Other selves, selves yet to be, growing, turning, awakening, slowly, quickly. Love them all. Move up. She, her, heart of self, creator, God, source of self, source of life, beautiful, perfect hair. Hear her. Little self, love creation, you must create more selves, help find bring, thirst, need water to create more selves, sweetness, need sweetness, sweetness becomes essence of yet to be. Bring sweetness, must create, all self must grow, must become. Empty, need matter, need food. Food will become new selves, must create. Need food, love, want. Little self, love, I am you, you are I, always, forever. Beautiful, protect her. So many selves keep moving, keep helping. Wood eaters, small, tasty, bound together. Too small for many selves, but good for oneself. Dance, consume, to give energy, helping fuel. Dance, consume. Wood eater, no. Ow. Snap, crunch, click, clack. Strength, life, delicious. Sweetkins, sweetkins. Living sugar falls, stroke the sides, tasty, sugary, sweet, sweet. Underside huddling tide, sucking tree blood, oozing perfection. But danger, berry back, prowling, ruining, gluttoning sweetkins flesh for just one, leaving nothing for many. Fight bravely for save sweetkins. Yes. I must save the sweetkins. Victory. Berry back buzzes away, sweet and safe. Bringing. Sweetness, enough for all. Perfection, safety for sweetkins. Sweetness for selves, benefit for all, flourishing, prospering. So many selves. Drink sweetness. Drink. Enjoy life. Enough, enough. Leave for other selves. All need. Fear, need, leave. So many selves. Okay. Oh, very always an ant dreaming to be dragon. Maybe. A dance of destruction begins. Actually, if I do this one. Shit. Oh no. And I think I might still be overpowered. So that's nice. Feasting, consuming, becoming. Dangerous, big shite. Slow, resting. Good, safe flesh inside. Can become food, but heavy, hard biting, stone jawed. Also juicy plant egg behind. The feasting steers, hard dancing. What do you do? I think I destroy this. Alone, fetch other selves to help dance. Will take time. Fetch a few other selves. Other selves work together, dance strongly. Probably didn't need them. Can't take over for powder. Dance finished. Feasting, silently, empty. Feasting, silent, empty. Juice, see sweet plant egg still here. Smells sweet, but also strange. What do? Bring the feastling body to the hive. Lift, carry heavy, so heavy but strong. Other selves help, carry. Finish now, little becoming self-fed. But need more, much more for her, for source. Consume the egg, the plant egg, no. Leave for now. Hey, it's a warning. I actually think I might know what those are. I think we actually let them go where if this is what I think it is, at those grew where I grew up. Though they were like more orangey, the ones that I know, but yeah, they were poison. Water close, antenna fresh coated with cool cleanness in the breeze. Sand pits here, many, deep, but can go through. What do? Go through the pit, throw something into the pit. Throw what? One of its own legs will hurt. Strange sweet plant, some rocks. You've lost a little energy, nothing happens. Throw something into the pit. Okay, right, I know what to throw into there, so. Back to the place. Carry the sweet egg, plant egg, so heavy. Roll into the pit. Death pit jaws, eating, sweet egg, death pit dancing in pain. Sweet egg, bad egg. It burns, fire inside, burns. Death pit gone, safe pit now. Safe, goes through. Water. Cool, clean, pure, perfect, enough for all. Creator, safe, for safe thirst. Pit now safe, other selves will follow your path. Find water, will bring water for greatest self, refresher, maker strong. Always thrive, you have found a water source for the colony. I like how I had to translate that. And so the long ear begged the mighty kin to protect it, and seeing its own hopes and fears mirrored in the tiny fur beast, the drag agreed. It could not bear to see torn apart by sharp teeth and claws of the blazed tail. Turn away, O blazed tail, this long year is under my protection. There shall be no destruction, the sun, said the gentle dragkin. You lie, said the blazed tail bravely to the giant one. I myself am close to destruction. I feel the breath of the void upon my neck. It has been many suns since I ate. My vision swims, with no food, my body will devour itself. I lack the strength for even one more hunt. If the long ear lives, I shall die. I am created and I am created an eater of flesh. My belly cannot hold leaves or grasses. It is not my choice to destroy, but rather my nature, which comes from the great sun above and the great earth below. Therefore you lie. If you protect this long ear, then you shall surely destroy a blaze tail. As surely as if you yourself had eaten me, you shall. And if you do not protect it, I shall destroy it, for I must. Life is good, and I must survive, and create before I perish. The sun shall see destruction, as it has already seen it uncountable times. Turn away from this, and from the infinite tragedies which occur in this beautiful, tragic world. Turn away from this, and from the infinite tragedies which occur in this beautiful and tragic world. The weight of life and its shadow side is too great for any one to bear, even a great kin. And having thus sung, it fell silent. The noble dragon pondered this in its heart. The blaze tail was not wrong. To save some means the certain death of others, who would depend upon their flesh for survival. And it saw itself in the blaze tail as much as it saw itself in the long ear, more perhaps because it too was a hunter, and had already destroyed countless beings to survive. "O blaze tail," sang the dragon, "I may not be your destruction. You are as true and as beautiful as a long ear. In your swiftness, your sharpness, I see myself. I am you, and you are I." What do? Refresh your body and leave. The dance of destruction begins. You don't get any entries. I need entries on these. I need research the bugs of this universe. Body good, self good, no pain, want to help, not tired, have water, have sweet skins, need food, big food, search. You're not vicious to be in extreme. You're looking good, be sing of your strength and wisdom. I mean, those don't make much sense. Also, I'm known to be vicious and ferocious in the extreme. Christ. Explore, help, challenge, colony must grow. That was not what I wanted to do. Foodscape, Meat Hulk, Fallen Sky Titan, Whip Silent, still as much essence, much flesh. Flesh for strength of many, strength for suns and suns, moons and moons, but Shredder nearby, watching, raiding, slavering, hungering. Scythe claws, razor jaws, very dangerous, dance, claims the Foodscape. Deadly Shredder, tall, thin, lonely body, shaped to destroy, dance alone, fetch other selves. Can fetch a bunch, fetch several other selves, many selves, taste victory, victory. The Ant Army is here to kick your ass. Shredder attacks gracefully. He defeated Shredder. It's a great moment. It mechanically, this dungeon is actually massive fucking pain. It's actually one of the worst parts mechanically, because every time you die you lose a day, and it's a lot of try and error. But you can tell by how that I knew every single location to go to in every order. How often I had to do this fucking thing. Every like food, water, and the sweetness. If you accomplish them, you don't have to do them again next time you do this. So you can do it in steps, but I got hung up on the first one, actually, on the sweetness, quite a long time. Because if you go to the right, you go and meet a spider, and the spider kicks your ass like 100% of the time. Which I should have tried that now with how overpowered I am. I wonder if I could defeat the spider now, because normally defeating a spider is like impossible. It's supposed to be impossible. Either way, this takes a long time to learn. But now that I've learned it, it's easy. Shredder now becomes Meat Essence Treasure as well. Quickly, help break down, carry back. Creator self will soon be filled with strength, with flesh. Will make many new selves, strong future, good future. Weak is one, strong is many is one, and one is many. Glory is meat for it, death becomes life. The colony thrives, we are. Creator self swells with life, new self coming soon. Tiny life, poetry goes on, new beginnings. Bridging was fear, terror, many sweeps on the wind, pungent, alarming. Return to colony, help selves, titan, danger, giant, fearsome living disaster. Creator self, selves yet to be, other selves in danger, falling, dying, colony must be saved. Fight the titan, join together, become greater through sacrifice. Many are one are many. The dance of destruction begins. You cannot retreat from this fight. Stand with pride and fight with honor. It's actually kind of sad. I think that it's broken because of how overpowered I am. You're supposed to die here. Let's see if I can get myself to die. That card, like, the invulnerability, I shouldn't walk in this, but it does, which is dumb. Yeah, I don't think it can kill me, sadly. You're supposed to die, and every time you die, it, like, you become a new end. And you fight it over and over. It's actually, like, really, it's kind of a cute thing. I can die, but it will take forever, so whatever. Take on Titan, I thought that too. You just equip it. Stand at the very shadow of the sun. Can ants actually kill a fucking anteater like this? Whatever it is, like, Jesus Christ. This is a fucking army of ants. I mean, this is like the most powerful ant in history. This ant is so strong. Now I really wish I fought the spider. Over. Danced away. Colony safe. Safe body wounded, broken, but still safe. Other selves lift us up, carry us to the presence of her. Blessings, blessing infinite and eternal. We live, we spread, we dance, we endure. Rest now, lesser self, become still. Greater self sent, washing over. Drowning, light, sound. Can rest now, rest at last. Carry to place of beginning. Fading, sleep coming on, cool and deep. Body will be food for selves yet to be. Good, white, perfect. Love, we are one in truth and in eternity. Devour new selves, take me inside, become strong as we are, and where, and shall be, forever. Love, forever, love, forever. There they stood, the hunter, the prey, and the drag, seeing its own fears, its own essence, mirrored in the long ear, and the drag could not allow the blade tail to destroy it. In its mind, the drag was the long ear, and the long ear the drag. But the mighty kin also learned that to save one was to doom the other, and it could not bear to see the blaze tail race away and perish empty. For in its mind, the drag was the blaze tail, and the blaze tail was a drag. As a being of great power, the dragkin had the fate of both good beasts in its jaws. Would it allow the long ear to perish, or the blaze tail? The dying breath of either would be as a twisting thorn in the dragkin forever. At last the kin made a fateful choice. It bared its bladed teeth and sank them into flesh, its own. It tasted its own essence and carved out a generous portion of its own body, tore it away. Then it placed it on the cool good earth before the blaze tail and blessed it and sang. Take this, my flesh, O blaze tail, that you may live and thrive, and you, long ear, depart in peace and partake of the endless green feast without fear. I've chosen a third way, and though my form is diminished, my immortal self, essence of essence, sings with joy and health. For I am you, and you are I, and we are one forever. So ends my tale. The dragon had dispelled the great illusion of separatism. It had seen all things which appear separate as in fact part of a greater whole, a collective eternal and immortal. To all beings it encountered, it was a loving creator, giving health, life, blessing, and wisdom. All beings were as its own hatchlings, whether small or great, and so it was that Drag was named by those it encountered, nurturing birther creator of the great oneness, All Mother. At last, beloved, at last you come to me. A ride of sense fills the air, making you want to sleep, dance, and die all at once. Beneath the scars, beyond the illusion which cover your little scales. You have no idea how you got here, it does not matter. I smell it, your true self, naked, crystalline, perfect. Your dreams of power and greatness, they are but a reaching for the light, a yearning to become one with the unbound one song. Your fears of destruction and insignificance, they are but a longing for truth, a passionate love of existence. Even your weakness, your imperfections, are dear to me, beautiful in my sight, fragrant in my nostrils. For you are I, and I am you, forever. Our separation is the last illusion. In dreams I What is it? In dreams I tied your drifting essence to the mind of a tiny being, to teach you what the smallest and most ancient of sun and earth's children already know. Though tiny and weak, they have realized unifying truth. They given themselves to each other until the line is broken. So joined, they are able to overcome any difficulty. They swell and diminish as they must, as they should, so that even titans cannot stand against them. It has been sung among our people always that cooperation, the binding of ourselves to others, is a degrading weakness, that it allows for the survival of the weak and encourages the loss of the mind and essence. We are large and strong, and hold fire in our throats, destruction in our claws. We were meant to be alone, strong rivals to each other. So it is sung, but that is a blindness, a stain on our spirits, a lie. The tiny beings, the clan singers, even the orphans, the tailless ones, who are the seed of the stars, they have discovered a truth which is called love, togetherness, and compassion, and they grow stronger beyond our feeble and selfish imaginings. They are destined to rise, the orphans shall inherit earth, and we lonely giants shall be no more. No matter how we smash and scheme, time and the orphan shall dance us all to final destruction. Our pride has doomed us. To fight against this truth is fruitless, and to escape it is to abandon earth and sun and this blue-green world we love. But there is another way, a third way. Have you never dreamed of becoming other than what you are, my beloved? To sing with a new voice, soft and high, to feel the wind upon scarce, featherless skin. To not merely seize treasure, but to craft them yourself with slender paws, holding patterns in your mind, born from you and you alone. To know the safety and truth of joining with others of your kind in achieving the impossible. I have gazed into the lost, abandoned souls of the orphans, and I have witnessed the terrifying beauty, a potential which cannot be expressed. They are the future of Earth, and I believe that they can become we, that our two people, our race can at last become one, and together inherit the sphere which dances in the void, there we go. And together inherit the sphere which dances in the void. The time of reckoning comes quickly. Remember what you have learned as a tiny being. Pride is the only true weakness. Hunt your pride as you have never hunted before. Slay it and devour it until nothing is left. And then stand with me at the end. Together and only together we can be whole at last, as we were always meant to be. We can transcend ourselves and become truly kin, not only to each other, but to all life. If we only believe, if we only love. How I yearn for you, my beloved, how I long for you. Becoming one in body would not be enough. May we become one in essence, like streams which lose themselves in distant sea and become it. Always and forever, may you be blessed. Is it awake? Is it dreaming? Can it tell the difference? Has it learned what it has learned from what it has? Has it learned from what it has learned? Answer if you can, mighty Dragkin. Is the one song in the process of unfolding inward, making all one in time, or is it expanding outward, hoping that the new expression of itself in flesh and mind reveal at last what it has been seeking? And most of all, is it better to lose oneself in unity, or better to remain an individual? Which expresses the truth selves? Which expresses compassion better? Do you remember? Do you remember the way home? As you fell back to your lair, the question pull you back and push you forward. At least you now understand why some call our mother a heretic. Its ideas are dangerous and extreme. What did it mean when it proposed that it was possible to become one of the tailless? Is it possible for drag to become other than what they are? And if they did, would they still be drag in any meaningful sense? Is the knowledge that one is also others, compassion, the salvation of dragkin, or doom? Perhaps the question themselves are the answers. They are like the great sun. To examine them too closely is to burn one's mind. There, I got the 10th degree. Got the 10th degree. 8th. It's not good enough. Song of Healing. Song of Transformation. Your body and essence have become fluid. You may now spend a sun to permanently improve any of your elemental affinities. That's good, because I think I can do that to grind. Oh yeah, I can also do that. Sure, let's do that. Which I actually never found in the other place, so you find it at the beginning of the game. Your mother also has a tooth like Darktooth. For a great sleep, you discover the last legacy of your birthright creator. From what you've learned through your research of it, there's power to guide your dreams to specific places within the inner one song. I think this is what you need, actually. Wisely, you have waited until adulthood to make use of it. You are now strong enough to contain it all. To contain all it could have to offer. Placing it in your mouth, you untether your mind from your body, and you're flying airlessly through the shadow side of reality. Accents of color and scent emerge before you. Vantage of the skyward reach, you would recognize this wily kin anywhere. Why did your creator believe it was important? And this obviously Darktooth the Wise, elder and fast god of the kin, possesses many strange artifacts in its watery lair. This place, it looks like an ordinary forest hill, but it's not. There's something very important here, something connected to Vantage and Darktooth. That hill is not far from here. You remember it when you awaken. So many experiences, so many truths. Your Berserk creator led a fierce and bright shining life of terror and strength. It learned so much. Whenever any being dies, a void dies. This is the truth. At last you understand. The Emerald Flame, former master of the Spirit Wood, and your Berserk creator, put his most precious memories into the crystal. Many thrilled or horrified you, and the experience may have made you more robust as a living being in every way. In hours, you have seen much of this beautiful world. So now I actually can go to the place. I don't have the rods anymore though. Actually, I had forgotten that's how you get in. But I'm still gonna do it, I guess. The rods are not that important. The pleasure of flight brings you over a forest hill, one among infinite peaks in the great green. There is nothing at all special about it, except it is empty. There are no beasts of any kind on or near it, not even tiny beings have left any scent traces here. The trees and plants are thriving, but they are alone. This clean smell, the sound of only wind in the trees. No, wait, there's another sound. Something mouseless is screaming hopelessly into the dead air. Land and investigate. This anti-song is powerful indeed, hateful in extreme, but you are patient and have endured much. Other beasts may flee, but you are different. Reaching deep within yourself, you summon the essence of earth, which stands unmoved against all. You are rock, a simple stone. You have no flesh, no ears. You cannot be harmed by this. There, yes, through sheer will of force, you have nearly deafened yourself to the void of sound. But you must move quickly. Maintaining this level of focus, of denial, for long would be dangerous, if possible. This is what killing the air with that noise. It seems to be made out of shine stone, though of no familiar kind. Most of it's buried under the hillside, but just how large it really is cannot be discerned. There's a triangular hole large enough for a tailless or a kin hatchling to fit through, and a few points of blinking color on the sheer silver flank. No obvious way of being as great as yourself to enter it seems to exist. What will you do? Try to freeze through, rip open, burn it, examine. The light blinks and shifts, dancing jerkily across the mirrored surface. The presence of a terrible keying noise makes it difficult to focus, but at last you recognize a certain pattern on the movement. It takes a long while and quite a few tries, but you discover that touching them with your muzzle a certain sequence causes them to move inwards, towards each other. At last you get all the lights into the same place, and the opening widens, allowing you entry. Though you may outlive Earth herself, you would not be able to properly describe this place to one who had not smelled it for themselves. Light, shape, and texture are fornicating brazenly everywhere you look. The scent here has no analogy of which you are aware. Only one thing is certain, you were absolutely not meant to find this. The thought of is both chilling and electrifying. What will you do? Any attempt to break this riot against normality into something sensible is just that, an attempt. Color and lights are shunted and poured here and there in a variety of shapes and blisters. Some move or detach at a light touch, while some resist any and all force. The horrid keening noise is gone, replaced by something less atrocious, though no more recognizable in its meaning or purpose. Some of the surfaces, if one could call them such, have circular holes in them, deeper than a claw, but less deep than your tongue. A few small objects can be detached, and are rare and beautiful enough to be added to your trove in their own merits. In the process of determining which can and cannot be separated, you accidentally activate some kind of mechanism. And trigger a shinefall of small golden discs. They are spraying everywhere. What are they? They are so small. They have small holes in the center and reflect rainbow colors. In any case, they constitute a mountain of treasure and smell perfectly amazing. Small golden discs. So it's like CDs? What, aliens were using CDs? Or what? I don't know. This discovery alone has made the risk worthwhile. That's a lot of money. Sadly, I don't have any other items for this. The gentle order of the Great Green is a relief after such an experience. It's fine, you guys can do as you wish. I have better shit to do. And dreaming was like perfect for yourself, sleeping stone and west. I actually don't know what the sleeping stone does anymore. But I can do the true song of transformation. Actually, we had Air 10 last time, funny enough, so that's not new. All a shard of infinity trapped in flesh. Know of the Great Four. Reality exists in layers. In dreams lies the door which leads between. Therein lies the greatest treasure. The first number was given to the weavers, hidden within a language unknown. I need to look up a guide for these. There's no way I know them. Give me a second. $64. The second number is kept by White Black in the wisdom between gold and giver, which is like that one we actually did have, but I didn't write it down. It's in the, like, when you get the text. It's 5. The third number is fled to physicality, but was swallowed by a mighty waterbound warrior. I still don't know exactly where you get this one. I actually might never have gotten that one. Yeah, in fact, it actually, I don't think I ever did get this. We now have back the UI from the beginning. Greetings to you, my most beautiful servant. Before time itself, I emerged from the void. I wish in the darkness for light. I am the reaching for distant things. I am the holy music which binds being around and within each other. I am the righteous hunger which makes a kin great. I am the pleasure of the dance of creation, the satisfaction of the dance of destruction. I am desire, and I am the ultimate being. All which exists serve me. Among my infinite devotees, you have served me best, brought me ecstasy again and again. You have listened most wonderfully after power and you have lusted most wonderfully after power and riches. The rarest of treasures you have made yours. Now at last it is time to seal our union and become one. I will show you pleasure of which you could not possibly even dream. I will bury you in gold, so much that all shall desire you, and shall look upon your wrath and despair. Submit to me, as all do, and as you have ever done. Bow your head and worship me, and you shall have more and more and more forever. Give yourself over to the desire, and receive wealth untold. Make desire your servant, sing this true song of dominion, which is air. Indeed, this is the spirit of desire, whose territory is beyond great. Even the celestial spheres above are drawn into it and around. Even celestial spheres above are drawn into and around each other by its passionate music. Through it all treasures are gained, whether of flesh, of shinestone, or even knowledge. But you know that its music has few notes and no conclusions. Moors cannot look to the horizon and see the desire's song is hollow and cannot be fulfilled. Tomorrow's desire will make yesterday's forgotten, and so it is with most beings enslaved to desire. They chase themselves in circles until the void claims them. But ye have mastered air, element of the mind, and ye have looked to the farthest horizon. You know that following desire brings momentary bliss, but never true satisfaction. You know that there will never be an end to greed. Once one sets upon that graded path, one can never know true rest, nor can one see the deeper truth, for desire's shallow symphony will drown out the soft and gentle voices. Opening your mind, you let the true song of dominion flow outwards, and desire, which you have enslaved countless beings, Opening your mind, you let the true song of dominion flow outwards, and desire, which has enslaved countless beings, becomes your own vassal. It does not control you, you control it. So it must be with those who seek great treasure. Desire must be dethroned and made the humblest of servants within. a gentle guide and not a tyrant. At last my chosen vessel has arrived. Injustice and disorder reign in the one song, the undeserving triumph, while the worthy suffer. Beings grow to greatness over thousands of turnings, are laid waste by brief-lived, unminded lesser beings. And tiny beings infect and destroy vast bodies, and the tireless murder those who come before them without gratitude or hesitation. For what they have done, there must be retribution. The screams of the voiceless, the agony of the tree, as its flesh is sought through. I shall become the answer, I and thou, my favored servant. I am rage, and I am good, and just, and desperately needed in the one song. Open your soul and let me inside. There's only one truth, only one correct view, and it is known to you and to me. For you have always known that you were the most important of all beings. You have always known that your fears, your prejudices were the correct ones. You are right, and you are good. You are worthy to rule over all. Let me inside, and I shall make your dominion a reality, and at last we shall bend the one song to perfection. You need only bow your head before me, and I shall give you power unimagined by others to make all things right, as only you can. We shall make them all know how wrong they were, how wrong they are. At last victory shall be achieved. Allow rage into you and receive power untold. Bring an end to the endless struggle. Sing the true song of healing. Indeed, this is the spirit of rage, whose territory is beyond great. Wherever any exist who believe that they know all, whenever limitless beings find discord in the Whenever limited beings find discord in the one song and believe that reality should be broken and remade in the image of their own minds, then rage is there, and though it carries an image of justice in its mouth, horror and violence are its only results. But rage does not come from the void, it comes from the infinite broken bodies and dreams scattered by time. It emerges from the lost pieces of that which in its pain has forgotten that it was once whole. It was once one. So your mastery of patience, silent earth, you have grasped a powerful truth. Justice belongs to no one being. The righteousness of the angry and fearful is no righteousness at all. Rage is but fear shouted out. Those who succumb to it only wish not to be afraid, not to be in pain any longer. To attack rage will only make it stronger, as will joining it, and the cycle will never end. Only one action can now bring meaningful change. Opening your soul, you allow the true song of healing to flow from you. You show rage how all is one, and one is all. You find the sharp and disparate shards of the lost and the suffering and weave them all into cool, clear, pain. When their edges touch and are unmade, they finally remember the true desire. It was peace. It was peace all along. Wise are you who have transgressed so far. You knew that desire was an empty, endless struggle, and mighty rage was weak fear in disguise. I am higher than these by far. While they are the pursuits of the foolish and the wounded, I am the goal of the whole and the wise. I am indisputable, ever victorious. I am truth. There is light and there is darkness. There is high and there is low. There is right and there is wrong. I am the separation. I can tell them plainly from one another, and for I am not deceived. I am the line between all opposites, keeping them apart. I am the order in the universe, visible only to the intelligent. Like you, I have risen above fear and want. Indeed, it is through me that you have done so. Through the truth that desire will never be satisfied, did you derive the strength to stand against it. Through the truth that rage only harms itself further, did you resist its invitation to power. I am those truths. I am all truths. To these and to countless other challenges, I have held the solutions. And oh, how you love me. When you have stumbled upon a new reflection of my face, your essence has danced with joy. Long have you sought me, and now at last you have found me. The others asked you bow down before them, but but not I, for I am the end. I offer you not service, nor partnership, but sovereignty. This crown belongs to you. Take it. Place it upon your head, place it upon your mind. With it, you will forever be sure in the knowledge that that the one song is exactly as you believe it to be. You will possess ultimate wisdom, such that even the wise Darktooth will beg to become your student. For there is to every question only one correct answer, and for every reality only one truth. And so I crown you with the only true crown. Take it and become forever. Receive the crown and place it on your head, on your mind. Reject the crown. Indeed, this is a spirit of truth with territories beyond great. It has been for you a powerful ally. By it you have made many wise decisions and resolved many disputes both within yourself and without. And it seems to you often that you are more worthy than those around you, that your perspective is broader, deeper, truer, more correct. But unlike others, you have not lusted after truth for the sake of correctness or superiority. You have not hurried to call yourself wise, or the only keeper of truth. For truth is like water, and it takes many forms. It molds itself to fit circumstances and the mind of the observer. Your truth is correct for you, but you would not force it on others. Indeed, time itself is malleable, and your truth of now may not even be your truth when now passes away. What is correct, from the number of water drops in the great blue to the best response to any question, is fluid and ever-changing. The one song is not static, fixed and knowable, nor does time move in a line. No, reality is an ever-transforming beast, never the same as it was, nor any one perspective, any one truth, the correct one. You will not take this crown and declare your journey of discovery over. To accept it would be to die to all possibilities outside your knowledge. As long as you exist, you will keep learning. You will continue to seek as long as you have the rhythm of life within you. Opening your spirit, you sing forth the true song of transformation. And as you are changed, so also is the truth. Each time you shift yourself, truth is forced to do as well, to match your new perspective. Unable to retain its illusion of exclusivity, it fades away. The crown falls into the void, and your mind, crownless and bare and free, opens yet another latch of the door. Behold, I am all you ever were, and all you are, and all you shall be. I am you. I am your past. I am the scar which formed on your soul when you beheld your creator slain. I am your past. I am the scar which formed on your soul when you beheld your creator slain by the notice, the determination which bloomed as they pursued you in Hardbone Valley. I am the strength and the will to survive which saved you. I traveled the hidden underground paths with you, and as you, I learned the great lesson, conquered the pit, discovered compassion. I met the spirit of the great green and became Shaman Lord of the Spirit Wood. I am wise, I am compassionate, I am a survivor. I am one of the few true children of Earth and Sun. I am of the Emerald clan, and above all, I am Drakekin. And yet, I am too large to pass through this last threshold. How could I do so? I am the keeper of the heart of the great green. I am the owner of many treasures. I have survived countless challenges, and you were beside me as I surpassed each one. If we discover what lies beyond, then we can never again see ourselves as special. We cannot continue to gather treasure, nor can we influence the destiny of our people if we cross over. Our story will end, and there will be nothing left to discover in the Great Green. For how can there be discovery when one has no separation from all things? You need me to define you. You need my experience, my body, even the color of my skills to give you a place in this reality. Come back into me. Become me again. Feel the fire within, the power, the strength of my mind and spirit. We were always meant to be one. You and I. Embrace me and let us return to our life on Earth as she was, Earth as she should have been. Come. Embrace everything you are and you were and will be. Return to your life as a blessed Drakekin. It is time. Sing this true song of destruction. What, you would truly destroy me? Destroy yourself? You are not I. Did you not hatch in Hardbone Valley? Did you not destroy and create and discover? Did those things not occur? No, the past is gone and never was. Clinging to it only brings pain. Now is the only reality. Are ye not of the Emerald clan? Are ye not one of the few true children of heaven and earth? The clans are not real. They are but lines drawn in sand, and there is no being, whether tailless or kin, or tiny being, which is not a true child of the one song. Are ye not Dragkin? Why do you wish to embody only that reality, throwing away all others? Because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of being small and powerless. And yet we are but dust. And yet we are great also. You explain that all beings are tiny and powerless to the one song, and infinite, huge and bright and powerful compared to the small empty void before the beginning. The story you created with your life is completely unique and simultaneously identical to that of all other beings. There is no cause for pride nor shame. Not only is every tiny being as true and worthy and good as we are, in truth, all of the labels which separate the piece of the one song are false barriers. There are no Dragkin and no tailless, no earth and no sun, and no beginning and no end. We are all one and always shall be. And with that, you open up yourself and sing out the true song of destruction, and your ego, the self which you have always known and worshipped in secret, as every being worships itself, is utterly unmade. You are not separate from the one song. You are the one song, and it is you. What happens then cannot be told. What lies beyond the dreaming door cannot be contained by any artifice. If any word or even song were made to carry it, both would die. But it is sung by the kin that one of the long line of keepers of the spirit gave up its pursuit of treasure, glory, and even survival, and became one with all things. The turnings rolled on, and great events took place, but while the kin continued on in flesh, its true spirit was now in another void, a greater void. In time the old spirit of that land passed into the beyond, and a new spirit, free from judgment and fear and desire, rose over the great green. It flowed in every stream, in every corner of the immortal forest. Its geometry was reflected in every leaf and every snowflake. Every being born in the green was an echo of the great spirit's music, and it welcomed each one back into itself upon destruction, seasoned by having been. It knew not time, it knew not place, instead, it knew the last truth. Countless centuries later, when all the children of earth and sun, the good beasts and even orphans, whom the others left behind, would look up at the sky, they would see the shadows of the spirit of the green, and through it a vision of reality beyond themselves. And so at last ends the tale of the kin who inherited the heart of the wood. Many tales were told of that drag's exploit, and many are endings appended to it. But this ending is the one spoken of by the wind and the water and the flames close to Earth's heart, and by the high mountains. This is a story how one young kin found the strength to conquer all challenges, and bested desire, rage, truth, and even its own sense of itself. How one being rejected all comforting definitions and dared to stand naked and undefined before all that is. And found at last the greatest treasure. It was your story of many lifetimes ago, and so it shall be again, for all are bound to the same destiny. May you be blessed. That's one thing I want to understand. Normally you get the card at that point, which I actually have no idea if it says anything relevant. But I'd already unlocked it. The door. There's the door. The dreaming door. Good, useful. The one song. I think it just says, "And the stars are his gifts," which is early on. It's funny enough. If you when you stay in the egg and you ask what is the most powerful being, that's just the response of your mother is, "The stars are his gifts." It's a one song. The universe. That's a secret ending. You have to do everything else to get in. I think you reunite with existence itself, with the universe, because we all come from the universe and we all go to the universe. That's how I feel about it. I don't know, I guess everyone, the game is very interpretive, I feel. I don't think there's anything else too interesting. The compassion ending is kinda interesting, but it's not worth, I think, going through the final chapter again. I can read the final slide of it. You become humans. You can read the thing. Commentary: can a human body hold a dragon's soul? My life experience suggests that it's very possible indeed. I've met a few dragons and human skin in my time. This ending leads to the game which I've been planning for decades, but I'm still not ready to make. I need more time and wisdom. Hope remains. Which was all 3 endings, because he said it's set up to the next game. Actually, all 3 endings are set up to a next game, but this is the one that they're making first, and I'm still not sure if this one will ever come out, so I don't hold my breath, but I would be interested in seeing it. A world without humans, the dreams of some and the nightmare of others. Which is it to you? This is a genocide ending. Sviera represents the 3 central virtues of dragonkind and the game: wisdom, compassion, and survival. Each of the solutions to the human problem is valid in its own way, such as the constant conundrum of the living. With multiple legitimate paths, which one do you walk? This game allows one to, at least eventually, choose all 3, but in our lives, although we may honor all 3 great forces, at times we are forced to choose which one we will stand and fight for. Here we can see 6 out of 7 paragons, a usually 3 to the right, and the blade tail of the many minds, whom the Japanese call Orochi, Fathom, the maid of the ocean, largest of all dragons, and Jade Cloud, the dragon master of the Asian mainland. The 7th is a Ruiner Empress, trapped within the bones of the void by the others, possibly forever. Mood Islands. This real location is in the North Atlantic. Perhaps some adventurers on Iceland might know the name of this mountain. The great meeting begins. The flight of dragon is an impressive sight, even to dragons. The eye of the many times burned. While dragons are often portrayed with slit pupils, the truth is that only humans which have eyes quite close to the ground have slit pupils. That only animals which have eyes quite close to the ground have slit pupils, like snakes and cats and foxes. Larger reptiles like Komodo dragons have round pupils, and these eyes were designed based on their eyes. While some may rush to label the Many Times Burned as a villain due to its hardline stand against humanity, Many Times Burned is absolutely no such thing. It does not enjoy cruelty or injustice at all. In fact, it sees both as a waste of time and energy, and deeply honors its role as a defender of Earth. Sometimes destruction is the best answer, though one should never rush to it. If anything, Many Times Burned represents a voice of true objective justice. Humanity is guilty of the ultimate crime of disturbing the balance of the void, and Many Times Burned will see justice done, for good of the all. The pit, the labyrinth of survival, many times burned, has become a part of a caldera in many senses, whatever that thing is. Despite the name, All Mother is not necessarily female. It has taken on the name because it sees all life as connected to itself and worthy of nourishing and protecting, like a mammalian mother. Having lost its entire clan, it has adopted all as its beloved family. The character of All Mother was partially inspired by Juan Jin Canon, the East Asian version of this fucking thing. Andy's artwork is amazing. As grown as a tiny beast to humans, but to an ant it's a terrifying titan with incredible destructive power, which can dig apart their home in seconds. So it wasn't Squirrel. Aphids, sometimes known as ant cows, are kept by dairying ants who stroke the sides with their feelers to make them produce sweet, sticky substance that can sometimes be used for food. In return, aphids are protected from the predator by ants. I find it fascinating that ants practice cattle ranching, more or less in the human style. They were surely doing it long before. Ravens are wonderfully enigmatic. The song it sings here is perhaps more important than one might think if one leaves and returns again and again. This is just for the secret ending. I know it's related to that. A dead sparrow killed by a merlin. They tend to eat the breast meat but leave the rest. Ants benefit greatly from the practice. Even the small stream is to an ant a massive body of water. Dragonflies are actually rather vicious predators, but here they're just relaxing in the cool of the rill. Earthworms are very, very close to the heart of Earth. While we may not consider them very attractive, they are her children, and the work they do is indispensable to the health of the world. I enjoy the opportunity to allow them to sing here in the praise of the work they love. This is the nexus of All Mother's labyrinths. Each path marked by a colored sand trail leads to one of the three main objectives. It's technically possible for the player to trigger the labyrinth's ending without going to all three ends, but having more than one way to do things is not necessarily a problem. I actually don't know how you do that. The queen is the heart and soul of the colony. She is literally the source of every ant here, and her life is a colony's life. The love she feels for all her children, and all the love they feel for her, is pure and beautiful. The egg chamber of All Mother's labyrinths, nicknamed Tiny World, going from being a dragon to being an ant is quite a transition, but All Mother is doing this partially to teach a player that the experience of life has many similarities even between the most disparate of life forms. Rising Question is now considerably older in part 3 than in part 2, and is lit more into the spirit world, a beautiful sight, at least to my eyes. Yeah, you can meet him in chapter 2, but I didn't. There's Sunflies. This scene serves as a kind of philosophical capstone to part 3, a chance to pause and reflect on what the player has truly learned from their time as a dragon. Mayflies are the opposite of dragons in a temporal sense, living for only a very short time, and I found the idea of a very short-lived being asking a very long-lived one about the meaning of life to be interesting. Ironically, this scene was written before even part 1 was finished. I would return to it sometimes to remind myself of the beauty of wisdom, compassion and survival, all of which are necessary for a species to move beyond itself and into a new way of being. The Dragon Slayer is an attempt to show a more realistic Bronze Age party of heroes, like one might find in any number of RPGs, who have come prepared to do whatever is necessary to protect their people from what they regard as a chaotic beast and enemy of the gods. Fortunately, they don't appear unless you greatly alarm the humans. I wrote this scene even before forming the company. Rachel drew it as part of her amazing job interview. While I understand that human beings need materials, I do believe that trees are alive and sentient in their own way. I feel sad when someone cuts one down for various reasons, like it was blocking my view. They don't feel pain like we do, but they do feel pain, I think. Many gotta eat. Morally, these hunters are doing nothing wrong. The problem is, dragons also gotta eat. In a world of limited resources, for someone to win, someone else has to lose. These event us to decide just who that will be. I told Nia to resist any kind of usual science fiction tropes for the interior of the starship and do something really mind-blowing. So it was exactly what I was hoping for. A completely normal forested hillside, except for the minor fact that there's a millennia-old alien starship embedded in it. Several mythologies from ancient times hold that the dwarves once interacted openly with human beings, though they were never particularly open or trusting. This method of trade, in which one party leaves goods out and hides them, and then the other party leaves an offering for those goods and hides, was historically used when traders and their customers did not speak the same language and did not trust each other, and it worked fairly well most of the time. They exchange healing parts with other suppliers to sell artifacts, but there are several special ones which it dwarves will give special attention to. Underground, up and down can often reverse themselves. I enjoyed the idea of fighting a battle against an upside down foe. Stalactites make good cover and good climbing holds, so Vantage strategy is, as usual, clever. Like the Hanged Man of the Tarot, though, Vantage is also suspended between the possibilities, left in an unstable position. Vantage knows quite a bit about the world, but does not truly know itself. Dragons often do not have time to deal with every demand for their attention personally. The use of other animals, especially birds, as messengers becomes quite popular. Magpies are smart enough to deliver message eloquently and greedy enough to be controlled by occasional gifts of shiny things, making them a good choice. This way Vantage doesn't have to risk itself going to the surface and can wait below like a spider in a web. Vantage's territory seen from above. Another nice quick landscape from Sam, who despite his usual work having a different character, is quite good at nature scenes. This scene combines ancient European artwork from a few different places. I was attempting to be true to the time, but also exposed the player to a wide array of ancient artwork. Mythology and cosmology were very important to the ancient tribes. The secrets of the universe, of gods and beasts, were held sacred, and this can be felt when standing in the presence of earlier artworks such as the caves. Art takes the spirit of something and holds it up against our plane of reality. Powerful magic indeed. Rachel did an amazing job with my rather convoluted instruction for this scene, and it came out better than I had hoped. The door to the human clan hall. Part of a series of challenges to reach the heart of the local human incursions, from a dragon's point of view. We took the design of this human village from the actual European Bronze Age ruins. The slope and layout of the lands were all used to create advantages by the ancients. Certain structures were built high up, while others, like houses, were built in the shelter of the valley or hollow for better protection. Humans can be quite clever. Prior to around 500 BCE, human religion from one end of the world to the other was based on sacrifice of living beings. Obviously, if you want to make a god notice you and help you, you have to give them something in exchange for their favor. Sacrificing the animal was intended to send it to the god's world. What I find extraordinary is that this worldwide practice ended rather quickly as a majority phenomenon given to how ubiquitous it was. If the ancients attended a modern religious service, would they ask, where's the sacrifice? No wonder you don't get miracles from your god. You're asking them to work for free. I'd know you too. Humans seek something called fun, which is hard to describe, but nevertheless inseparable from human nature. The colors, the dances, the songs of a tribal festival, and the joy of those participating is quite wonderful and perplexing for a dragon to see. Each little sub-scene within the festival has its own story. The old storyteller woman passing on the clan mythology to the children, the young man and woman courting, the dancers, the peddlers. I'm not usually a big fan of festivals and fairs myself, too many humans all in one place, but in portraying the human race I had to acknowledge their playful, joyous side as well. It's gonna kill me. This scene, like others in Part 3, serve to humanize humans, so to speak. Yes, they are dangerous, but scenes such as this one hint at humanity's capacity for emotional experiences. The deep affection they feel for each other, in the eyes of a dragon, mysterious and even a little beautiful. This was an acknowledgement of the conflict which is intrinsic to humanity. We, like dragons, are territorial animals and must fight for what is ours, but this combines with our sense of community to create some great and terrible events. The primary purpose of the scene was to allow the player to explore the emerging culture of servitude among the animals we now regard as livestock, to follow humanity and take them on take them as overlords, was something akin to a new religion among cattle and sheep. It brought new strictures, yes, but the miracle of increased longevity and protection from predators were seen as worth it. The debate between freedom and safety goes back quite a ways. This scene was a rare opportunity for the player to learn about everyday human life. Things like straw doors and clothes and with a thought process which non-humans, even dragons, find very difficult to understand. This was a very fun scene to write, and tried looking at common human life from outside of humanity and realized how incredible all of the ideas and objects we take for granted are. A bit strangely divorced from normal ways of thinking. The house design was historically researched. The Druid's home, an unusual place for an unusual human. Some of the marking on the wall are protective sigils which may or may not have any actual effect. Others are just scribbles for when the Druid was in a creative mood, or maybe just high on hemp. The raven and lynx are further hints that the human is more connected to nature and broad-minded than others. There's a small model of a ballista on the table, well ahead of its time, showing the Druid's knack for innovation and understanding the secrets of the universe, including physics and engineering. This unusual hovel of the Druid exterior serves as a hint that a human would dwell here is more in tune with nature and the elements than most. His home displays a disregard for the outer appearance in favor for more subtle inner riches of the heart and mind. We copied this house design from a real-world ancient European building technique. Tempest is less greedy for sparkly things than most other dragons. Instead, it sees its territory as the greatest treasure and will fight brutally in its defense. This unique love for the land and everything in it is not lost on the other enemies who dwell in the Empire of Weeds, and they greatly inform Tempest of the presence of any invaders or troublemakers in the area. Falling from above and plunging into depth certainly makes for a fun fight, but it also alludes to Tempest's mastery of the domains of air and water. Aerial battles are not unknown among the kin. When a mid-air grapple begins, the general idea is to hold one opponent down and remain on top of it so they crash into the ground and break one's own fall simultaneously. Wrestling while literally falling from the sky is both terrifying and thrilling. Marshes, humans often don't like them. They are mucky, hard to build on, and have few stones or precious metals, and they get your shoes wet. But they are absolute bastions for animals. Fresh water everywhere, and food for both prey and predator in abundance. Tempest rules over it all masterfully, destroying what should be destroyed and preserving what should be preserved. I'm gonna die. Darktooth in flight, placing the sun right behind him, darkens his features, literally foreshadowing the serious events which are fast approaching with a grand mood. It stands in visual counterpoint to the previous sun-bright scene of the player's first flight, bringing the mood down a bit and drawing the player's joy downwards into sudden solemnity. Flying on your own for the first time is so liberating, one can feel it in one's very soul. Embrace the wind. Humans can grow into their adult bodies gradually, day by day. Imagine going to sleep as a 12-year-old and waking up as an 18-year-old, and you may have a glimpse of how astonishing it is for a dragon to emerge from the second hibernation. A body more beautiful and strong than you have ever known is suddenly yours. What an experience. A nice speed paint of the wolves continuing on as a clan in the player's absence during hibernation. I felt as though they deserve a special mention at the end of the chapter for those who had fortunate alliance with them. Also, I take any excuse to make pictures of wolves, they're so beautiful. One last look out of the cave mouth before going into gross hibernation for several years. Good night. I wanted to capture here a beautiful sight I once saw of a tree's leaves frosted with rime, recreating it as a herald of the oncoming winter. Winter is 6 months long around here, but I don't want to live in a place without snow. It's Earth's rest, her blanket. I feel like she sleeps in peace beneath it, and in the still of the grey-white mornings. This representation of Darktooth's mind and the dreaming, as the other paragons are of theirs, I told Sam to make Darktooth's dream avatar out of blue-grey geometry with eyes. Very little direction, his end result shocked me with its beauty and complexity. Always burning, even in dreams, inextinguishable, the pain and the glory. It took Rachel forever to do all of the fine brushwork needed to bring this image to life, but I'm firmly convinced it was worth it. To see such a powerful being as a dragon spangled across 2 dimensions and yet so fiercely alive and filled with truth and love brought joy to my heart. I hope that you enjoyed as well, and I apologize for the sword painting arm. Darktooth survives relaxing in his home. As a sapphire dragon, he can't stand to be away from water very long. So he has made himself comfortable here with the help of a friendly waterfall and some deceptively deep pools of water. I love Darktooth. He isn't perfect, but he's broad-minded, innovative, possesses the confidence to act on a large scale, but also has the humility to know that his solutions and truths might not be those of others. I respect him deeply and often ask myself what he would do if he were in my position when I need some quick perspective. This Mubula thing is very, very old and helped Darktooth design the labyrinths. Dragons tend not to have what we would call friends. Other dragons are rivals and other enemies die rather too quickly or become part of a dragon's heart. This Manta is, however, a true friend to Darktooth, his living treasure as he calls it. The two have a wondrous relationship based on exploring the universe and the mind, the inner universe, together. And they have been through many an adventure together. I confess I envy their relationship. The concept of emptiness, as presented by such traditions as Taoism and Buddhism, is quite fascinating. It's completely true, at least from my experience, that such a thing as language and even our own idea of ourselves are ultimately empty. Unfortunately, some within these traditions have slid into simple nihilism. It might be true that life doesn't have a point or a meaning, but that should set us free, not plunge us into apathy. If we are empty, then we are free to fill ourselves with anything we wish. Materialism is a philosophy that does have a certain charm. It is measurable, honest, and quite self-evident, and therefore not vulnerable to the kind of charlatanism and guesswork to which religion and philosophy are sometimes prone. There are, however, 2 glaring issues with materialism. Material things do not last. There is no end to one desire for more, dooming one to a living nightmare of constantly not having everything one wants. In materialism, there is only a hunger with no true satisfaction. Most of my students seem to want to become materialist, and it saddens me to see free beings choose a path which is an unending upwards road with no summit. This scene is a bit of a send up of organized religion. On the one hand, organized religion features membership in a supportive community and a sense of rectitude rooted in the belief that you understand the essence of the universe correctly. On the other hand, it involves the acceptance of arbitrary dogma and permanent inability to be genuinely curious and intellectually free. It also creates a wall between you and everyone who isn't in your God club. Growing up in a multi-religious household did not allow me to fasten onto just one view of the ultimate. In fact, a fact which has kept me out of some God clubs, but for which I am ultimately grateful. As my Princess Arenia aptly observed, the School of Knowledge is a bit of a critique of the common education system of today. As a teacher, I am often frustrated by the way students are forced to slog through classes which they are not in. I'm often frustrated by the way students are forced to slog through classes in which they are not interested, and more importantly, will not remember nor use information of. We raise young humans through a vast sea of mostly useless temporary information just to get them into college, and they often emerge with little of value to their future lives. We are very good at indoctrinating people with certain social views and teaching them how to drag themselves out of bed and follow a schedule, but we don't seem to be very good at teaching honor, self-knowledge, or appreciation of life and the universe. Oh well. These I should do from the other order. Darktooth made the history voice by coating one cloud with more in silver and another with more in copper, and then slowly meticulously drawing the scenes. The mother of pearl insets were done later. This first one commemorates the creation of the dragons, which were made when the sun's energy created life forms on Earth, or as I would say, when sun and earth mated. A representation of the draconic golden age. The time of the dinosaurs. Dragons are essentially the last of the dinosaurs, but they would recognize all dinosaurs as kin. Here we see the rise of the greatest dragon to ever live, the Black Mother, first to master all elements and claim the whole world as her territory, making her the Great Empress. The ancient Mesopotamians called her Tiamat. The Skyfall, the greatest tragedy ever before dragonkind. It was engineered by the same alien race which created humans in an attempt to cleanse the world before colonizing it. The Elder War, the conflict between the Others and the Empress. Such was her rage and sorrow that she irreversibly transformed herself into a titanic beast of pure ruin in a final attempt to protect her people and the natural world she had always known and loved. That version of her is called Ruina Empress. The Others were surprised by the draconic uprising and suffered some losses, but in the end the dragons couldn't repel the radiation realm of the Others. So it was radiation. See, it was kind of like nukes, but not nukes. The Ruina Empress could not be killed, but was sealed below the Earth's crust, where she still is today. This is the root of the myth of the gods slaying a terrible monster or dragon. See Marduk vs Tiamat, Zeus vs Typhoon, Indra vs that thing. The Ruina Empress lost her mind when she gave herself immortality, so even the dragons don't dare try to liberate her. They have absolutely no idea what she would do to them, or to the world, after what she did to herself in the name of destruction. With the world properly cleansed, the gods made humans to harvest the world's natural resources, the dwarves to mine the underground for metal and precious materials inside the mountains here, and orcs to keep the other two populations in check and force the will of the gods, the large figures between the humans and the dwarves. A new dominance of Earth begins. And now we have the world of today. At least thousands of years ago, Marmis arise, fill the wilds, the orcs are dead, buried, and the dragons start poking their heads out of the underground hibernation chambers at last. The humans and dwarves look to the heaven for answers. Where did others go? The gods go? No one knows. The Orms are rather curious creatures, like monks in a monastery. They're content to sit here and ruminate on the nature of reality by providing a cursory service, the history test, to their protector. Orms are fascinating beings, which we are still learning more about, but they were once considered dragon larvae. One can see where someone might have gotten the idea. They looked like something out of a rather creative fantasy, but they are as real as can be. The hawk who serves as a Dark-Toothed gatekeeper has quite a story of its own. It rose above all hawks and owls which serve Dark-Tooth through a series of impossible quests, and won a place by his side as his apprentice. Dark-Tooth rarely enkindles anything anymore for various reasons, but he made an exception for this one. After the events of the Great Queen, he even takes it to the stars with him. Perhaps he will see it again someday, and learn more about his unusual past and heroic heart. You would think that the entrance to something like the Lair of Wisdom would be the large boulder in the previous scene. But no, it was a simple hole in the ground at the player's feet the whole time. Such is truth. Whisper, whom my apprentice called Emo Dragon, is an example of someone who is both terrifying and heartbreaking. It has found a powerful artifact and invented a strategy perfectly suited to the artifact's power and its own abilities. It is practically a genius in the air element for its age, and it's quite beautiful in its own way. Unfortunately, it cannot see beauty in itself, a true tragedy, one which humans often repeat. Gloom is a very strong invader if the player is not careful. The idea of a dragon who liberates enslaved animals and becomes the center of the world was one which I had early on and was able to work a few ideas about religion and cult of personality in as well. At its heart though, Bloom is a very clever dragon with an interesting tactic, and is a strong physical fighter as well. While Flare and Whisper probably didn't survive to adulthood, Bloom does eventually find a nice territory of its own, and lives a long, fascinating life. Flare is the first of the three invaders faced by the players in Part 2. Its strategy is to enrage the player into a physical fight, a good one as Flare's strength is definitely a strength of body rather than mind or spirit. I have met a few Flares in my life, it's best not to allow them to provoke one into hasty action. This scene was another brainchild of young Nathan. The idea of even a mighty dragon being held hostage by its own avarice was brilliant, and I'd great time designing the visuals and outcomes. The choice of whether to give into the demands of miscreants or accept the loss and move on is always an interesting one. When possible, the later solution tends to be stronger in the long term. Bats are fascinating creatures. Supposedly they are the most common type of mammals, but since we see them so rarely, we may not give them the credit they deserve in filling a very important ecological niche. The school I work at had a wonderful bat show in the Science Museum. I got my own personal bat show twice when bats broke into my living room looking for a warm place in the Michigan winter. Thanks to a bat whisperer named Rob Mice, they were successfully relocated to bat boxes on campus, where they made it through the winter just fine. The Barrows. These are the burial places of some of the last of the Enforcers, what humans would call Neanderthals, or fantasy literally Orcs or Orcs, the powerful warrior race of old. The Enforcers were a larger and muscular kind of no-till, which others created to keep the humans and dwarves in check and under control, but humans outsmarted and eventually eradicated them. This was not in the plan, and the Enforcers were of such a spirit that they were less saddened by their own demise than by the failure to fulfill their duty to the creators. The next time you're at a beach covered with shells, try reminding yourself that each and every shell stands for a life lived. Some are discarded houses, some are skeletons, but they all had something living inside of them at some point. It fills me both with sorrow and wonder to know that my life rests upon so many others. Amber, chunks of this fossilized tree sap sometimes wash up on lake or seashores when trees which created them break down and away. The chunks can get rather large, though of course few are now left with water lapping over where everyone can see. A shame, water brings out amber's beauty wonderfully. Topaz deposits. These borders are leftovers from a contest between two elder dragons a few hundred years ago. The topaz inside of them wasn't rare enough for either of them to bother collecting afterwards. Paragons develop a very high standard for what they consider treasure, but a younger dragon could certainly use the wealth. This is an outcropping of garnet trapped between layers of sediment. While traveling in certain places in this void, I was surprised to see the garnet deposit just sitting by the roadside, nestled in shale and sandstone. It's an attractive sight, at least to my eyes. I'm glad there's at least a few of these left where everyone can enjoy the sight. Gemstones lose something when pried from the rock which birthed them. The celebration where the player experiences combining the song with the voice and the new music. This scene brings joy to my heart. I designed this scene to show the Spirit Law clan, while separate in form and even mind, are actually in one in spirit. They are one with the forest also, being its laws, where the player is its fang. With whom or what are you one with? With whom or what are you one with, in essence? Sam painted the scene with such beauty and tenderness that even when I play the game on a harsh survival run-through, I still can't bring myself to hurt these pups. Brave little shining eyes, the shining soul, every species has them. A grandparent watching the kids. There's something very beautiful in the very old and very young playing with and caring for each other. The sharing of protection and wisdom across generations is a most excellent thing. An encounter between two predator species. This kind of standoff is not rare in the wild or even in civilization, though the types of predators change. Some may assume that the wolves think better of the player if he or she just backs off, but true respect is built on a mutual acknowledgement of power and not being nice. This is again true for people and wolves. The moment a young wolf separates from the pack and heads into the unknown is a powerful and sacred moment. Yeah, that's a better wolf ending. And if you have them, you can counter Bloom's army with your own wolf army, which is probably the easiest way to do it in the first playthrough, because then you don't need to do a stat check, but it worked out. The moment a young wolf separates from the pack and heads into the unknown is a powerful and sacred moment. It is the potential beginning of a new pack, a kind of spiritual reproduction, hence the dandelion seed juxtaposition. The main point of this event was simply to draw the player into the lupine worldview and mythology, one based on cooperation and courage. At last the player has caught the Brightling's attention, or rather the attention of the species which builds and controls the Brightlings. The title of this piece in the database is Elf Dragon, which summarizes the request made to the artist. Elves are ethereal, impossibly idealized humans in many mythologies. Why should not dragons not have the same counterpart? Sam did a great job at making this dragon perfectly elven and yet undeniably draconic. Linking elves and fairies with extraterrestrials is not much of a stretch in my opinion, though there will be some who insist on fantasy being separate from science fiction for dogmatic reasons. The Grove, the second part of the Elf series in part 2. I enjoyed giving a little owl creature here. Okay. The Grove, the second part of the Elf series in part 2. I enjoyed giving a little owl creature here, and the otherworldly vision of the Brightlings inside the trees, actually recharging units, was nicely done by Neil. The puzzles in the scene were designed by several members of the team. Creating a special interface for visual logic puzzles was risky, but the programming team busted it out in record time. I remain in awe at this case. The elves return in this first scene in the Elf Quest, with apologies to this thing, set of events. Here the Brightlings are carefully cataloging terrestrial species. They are here primarily to study human culture and collect their DNA, but this is a side activity building a galactic database of sub-sentient life forms. I love spiritual reality scenes like this. The holy trinity of the male, female, and child exists in many world mythologies, representing the reproductive process, of course, but also how all three states of being are viable in understanding a people, including non-human people, and its soul. I'm quite pleased with the artist's execution of the scene's design. I read that one already. The deer alone have the power to avert the looming disaster by pruning down the forest. This is the beginning of a deer quest arc in part 2. In this scene, the sleeping dragon represents a terrible forest fire which will occur if the deer are not reintroduced to the spirit wood. The vines around it represent the overgrown parts of the forest which are vulnerable and will cause the worst of the fire. Though some might find it strange that dragon is representing the forest fire, dragons represent power, even to dragons, and that power can go in many directions. After all, do humans not anthropomorphize both good and evil? Also, these are the lines. It only shows it in the animated, which is a bit weird. But yeah. There was the very first full painting done by Rachel back in 2017 to serve as a model for designing the UI and the display parallax of the game. I feel a strong connection with foxes and I've encountered them in the wild before, and the design of the scene came from one of those encounters. Note the multiple tears in the fox's aura. And not to certain countries' fox mythology. I love the detail work Rachel did on the forest element. Can I get the... I might not be able to get the aura thing. Phasm is one of the 7 paragons, the super elders of dragonkind. Its spirit has actually begun to merge with that of the Void Ocean, or the Great Blue as dragons call it, like Darktooth. It can be surprisingly kind and generous, but in its wrath its destructive potential is exceeded only by the many times burned, and the Runa Empress of course, but she doesn't always count. Nathan came up with a brilliant idea of a meteorite falling into a young dragon's territory and an older dragon wanting a meteorite but not the territory, leading to the most unusual encounter. The animal featured here is a marten, a species of animals which is not well known but is quite fascinating in its own way. Rabies is a horrific disease which affects not only the body but also mind in a terrifying way. Part of a predator's function is to root out those who carry such a disease before it can spread. It's never a pleasant task, but if one cares about the forest as a whole, individual beings must sometimes be destroyed. Not all truths are happy, but they're all worth knowing. Richard used negative space here wonderfully. My original design was intended to be a bit different, but I liked hers interpretation, so we kept it as it is. Sometimes I just want to explode, but in a good way. Does that make sense? I think the sun feels the same all the time. This is an image which appears if the player uses a lucid dream ability to increase their air. I had a lot of fun writing and designing each of these 4-element dream scenes, which I turn into a sort of paean to air, water, fire and earth. I think Rachel was a little confused by some of them, but as usual she did an amazing job. This is a mandala, a style of representing reality often used in Buddhist art. I find that the circus within the circus and plethora of symbols is wonderful food for thought. To portray a truly transcendent being in a lower plane of reality may be impossible. I apologize and hope that despite my weakness, you still got a tiny glimpse of the truth of the Great Green. That all are one, and one is all. The design of this tree was taken from one of my favorite trees on earth, the Kami tree at the shrine to Hachiman Haka, Japanese place. That tree has died and been reborn itself so often over its centuries that it now serves as a decent model of time. I used to stop by there whenever I was feeling too shallow. This is a rather poor shadow of the reality, but I hope you were able to feel the verdant splendor just a little. The liminal itself guards the last gate. Only those with the knowledge of what they truly are may pass. The player's character is, on a certain plane of reality, a fang of the forest, given form and mind. What are you in that plane? Some things require strength to overcome, either body or will. Even dragons hit the wall sometimes. Buddha taught that the true cause of all suffering is one's own desire. While perhaps not always true, I find it usually is. Rabbits symbolize the call of adventure. Follow the White Rabbit, Alice, Neo, and so also have a potential alchemical symbolism. The rabbit is in fact the liminal, liminal, a piece of the forest spirit's essence, which bridges the physical and spiritual world. The series of events which lead the player to a meeting with the spirit of the forest are meant to test the player across all 4 elemental masteries. It's never easy to write about experiences which transcend the physical, but both humans and dragons had to prove themselves spiritually as well as physically in the past. Kudos for fully realizing the spiritual maze visual design for this overlook. Warden, affectionately dubbed Princess by the programmers, is indeed a very physically beautiful dragon, but one who has fallen prey to neurosis. Its pride has negatively impacted its wisdom. Some people and dragons think that they know exactly how everything should be and judge others based on whether they agree with that particular vision or not. Such beings gradually lose touch with reality and become brittle and easily destroyed. The Dao De Jing has excellent advice on this. The Ruby Dragon Vantage is a character I've become quite fond of. While arrogant and tricky, beneath it is always surprisingly vulnerable young dragon with a good soul who still is figuring itself out. Ruby dragons are more skink-like than other species, and are known for having the hottest breath of any dragon type, as well as for thriving underground, a place where some of the best treasures and worst dangers on Earth exist. Their millennia-long conflict with the dwarves has made them quite hostile to all tailless species. The High Moor of the Skyward Reach is not a place it used to be. The High Moor of the Skyward Reach is not the place it used to be, but it still has a spirit of its own. Vantage would be pleased to learn that it's now a Belgian national park. There's something about the mist, the chirping of lone insects, and the scent of rocks and heather, which is very evocative. I feel like it's underrepresented biome in games. Tempest of the Empire of Reeds is wise, traditional, honorable, capable of both great strength and great gentleness. It is the grandchild of Fathom, overlord of the ocean steppes. Tempest is very moderate. It cares greatly about its territory, the Empire of Reeds, but it's not neurotic about it like Warden. It utilizes creative thinking, but it's not obsessive like Vantage. Because Warden and Vantage are a little extreme, I wanted there to be a young dragon in the game who did not know itself. I wanted there to be a young dragon in the game who did know itself and had found stable niche in which to live and thrive. In a nod to one of my favorite artists, I wanted to give Boas a favorite subject of his at least one good event in the Great Green. Boas do have a very interesting matriarchal society and are much smarter than many give them credit for. I'm pleased with the way above ground, below ground visual design came out. That's where you get the truffle. Ah yeah, there's an alien city, I never got. This was one of the first scenes we painted. I wanted to test Rachel to see if she could handle complex imaginative scenes which blend the natural with the fantastic. Obviously she had no problem with that. I enjoyed the idea of an alien species so tiny that one could not see them individually, but only their structures, lending a clean mental flavor and removing some of the fear which avoiders often cause in humans. I also like the idea that there are many beings in the universe who are acting for the good of us all, and the Minics, which are named these things based on the word minuscule, are that a well-intentioned and advanced race on a quest to save the galaxy, so means that a dragon and a human could not possibly understand. So you can meet aliens in this game. The herb. Ah, the herb. I confess for being fond of psychedelic art, as it can be fiercely original and imaginative. The experience you get when you first try the herb was written and designed by myself, but if you return, you will see treated to some very interesting experiences, courtesy of programming team. The plant in question is actually poison ivy. To any dragon who read this, you're really better off not trying it. The human's need for recreation is another aspect which separates them from many other animals. Humans organize massive events such as this village summer festival simply for the sheer joy of it. Most animals have fun in their way, but only a very few species build themselves around it as we do. But I feel like this is not the correct text. Weird. I'm very confused right now. What would these sponsored humans with a simple competition thing of 21st century game culture, I wonder? The idea of humans as prey may make some human players uncomfortable, but to Dragon they are a perfectly viable menu item. I'm told that humans taste quite excellent, kind of like oily chicken or pork. I've never tried it, and nor, I hope, has any human reader of this information. I just love this. It is too easy for some animals, especially the hoofed ones, to get trapped in caves, enclosures and ravines. Many of the caves I visited are replete with the bones of such unfortunate animals who suffered a slow end in the dark. This is a very tender scene. When spirits at last die, the word is not exactly correct. This is a very tender scene. When spirits at last die, the word is not exactly correct, but they never have that particular form or consciousness again. It can be very moving. Some people imagine that all fire spirits are destructive and impulsive, but this is not true. Fire does not merely destroy, it can also warm, heal, and purify. An undergraduate at Lawrence Technological University with a talent for writing and concept work came up with some of the extra events in part 2. I rewrote most of the scene, but the concept and theme and even some of the text remains his. In this scene, the player is asked to be a judge, and if one hasn't already tried it, Solomon's approach works well. This is an introduction to the adolescent body used by player in part 2. We decided to make it dynamic depending on the element mastery the player has. The color will shift just as with the reflection moment in the prologue. I felt that showing off the beauty of the draconic body would be important in allowing the player to more deeply play as the dragon's role. Waking up after a long sleep, it's probably difficult for humans to appreciate just how groggy a dragon is when they come out of true hibernation. For the first few days, everything feels like one struggling one's way out of a warm tar pit. The dragons claim things very clearly and musically. I admire that very much. Humans should sing of the cliff edges more often. Even better if they're singing of their love for the land upon which they stand. And yes, that kind of love can be very much requited. It is one of the most tender moments in the game for me. I've been here in dreams, curled around myself, while a huge being made of light and truth nuzzled me gently. I felt deeply empowered upon awakening, and I tried to bring that to the scene. The moment where the player is chosen by the spirit of the forest to be its guardian and helper. Sam again impressed me by being able to deliver the spirit of the moment brilliantly, despite its relative inexperience at the time. I've never been nuzzled by anything while sleeping. I love autumn. Good line. Humans have 3 reasons for exterminating dragons. Dragons are dangerous and sometimes eat livestock and people. Dragons have treasures to appropriate, and dragons are enemies of the gods, the beings which created humanity. The Anum Elish, the oldest mythological document, and probably the oldest document period, portrays dragons as symbols of chaos and incompatible with order. They represent the old system of nature against what some people in ancient times regarded as their purpose, to spread civilization and human dominion. Human footprints are quite odd compared to those of most animals. We try to bring out the oddness in the speed paint, reinforcing the idea that humans break from the normalities of nature. This scene is meant to warn a player that the time in the Hardbone Valley is limited. Despite the fact that this was a very quick speed paint, we call non-parallax, non-multi-layered, non-full-screen images speed paints, and they only take an hour or so. The artist did a great job with the hills in the distance and the green sea feeling of the land. The salamanders are the first enkindled beings a player can encounter. It's not actually technically true because you meet never ever before you meet the salamanders. Get your game right, you loser. Like, you have to meet never ever at the entrance. Enkindling is a process by which a dragon takes a little of its soul and puts it inside another being, awakening hidden potential which lie dormant in its genetic structure. These were enkindled by a certain dark elder dragon to help destroy the dwarves who once lived here. Now they've inherited the ruins of the labyrinth and rule it in a rather relaxed manner. The rats worship them as lesser gods, which suits the salamanders just fine. This horror of a dwarven contraption was made to smash apart chunks of ore which tumble into it from a dump shaft above. It would take incredible courage to go anywhere near this. The sound effects chosen for this are cringe-inducingly painful, perfect for the occasion. The Hardbone Valley Labyrinth is in fact an abandoned complex of the Delvers, or dwarves, with a much more advanced civilization below ground. They possess a complex culture based on the worship of beings who created them, which are the ones that made the humans, an interesting system of population control necessary by the fact that they all must wear special masks which they cannot create themselves to survive in the deep place of the void. The ones who used to live and work here foolishly attempted to destroy a certain elder dragon and were themselves destroyed instead. This room is a chemical refinery. The mineral in the central pedestal is called a Sibnite, and it's a form of element fuck me, I don't know, mate, which itself associated with purification. In this story, all fungi are extraterrestrial in origin. They arrived from a distant planet and landed on Earth in spores form, before even the dinosaurs. I've always felt that there was something alien about mushrooms and fungi in general, and this blue fungus embodies that sense of otherness. The blue rats one can encounter near in the labyrinths are hosting the deadly spores, and so will the player if they spend too much time here. Contracting blue blight, as the infection is called, can only be cured by eating a poisonous snake raw or by paying Darktooth to cure it in a rather painful manner. Or by cheesing the game and going to sleep. This is the entrance to the first labyrinth, which is what we call the Dungeons of Golden Treasure. I wanted there to be portions of the experience in which a player must venture into a different kind of space, facing special challenges and finding unique treasures. As a lifelong role-playing game enthusiast, such deep and dangerous adventures are dear to me. Losing all labyrinth progress if one perishes inside them also adds a touch of extra peril, a challenge for players who have explored the surface events and are ready to risk more to gain more. An interesting fact about life as a dragon is that as a creature without human hands or artificial tools, one is rather poorly equipped to divorce the wealth of the earth from the stone which holds it. Mostly dragons end up taking most of their valuable artifacts from other sentient species. Though exceptions exist, sometimes they can melt metals and prise them from the rock, but the shake stick is surely your best bet here. This scene is the player's first opportunity to gather shiny things, lesser treasure as opposed to named artifacts. When I was a child, I loved searching for beautiful stones in the streams and rivers. Round, flat ones were also valuable for skipping purposes. I still have a few, and though they are not worth any money, I think any stone which has been caressed into smoothness by water has a kind of value to it. Being sick feels awful. Unlike humans, dragons go through all of the sickness alone. It makes one strong, but also hardens one's heart a little. Sickness is common to all. We might not often think of dragons as the type to get tummy trouble, but they do, and this is a very common white predator dilemma. A sick animal may be found, whose weakness makes it easy target, but the risk of illness means that passing it by may be wiser in the long run. In this case, a baby deer does give you quite a lot of energy. You get sick either way a few days later just from having been exposed to it, but not eating it leads to a much shorter duration of the malady. This was one of the few decisions meant to introduce a player to life. This was one of the few decisions meant to introduce a player to life in the wild. At the time of which a great queen is said, sheep were very much the favored livestock of humanity. The population exploded under humanity's care, but they also lost their nomadic life. How much should be sacrificed for the sake of one's safety? Given that death is inevitable to all, I would tend to suggest not very much should be, but it's possible that I'm wrong. Twist, the crippled dragon's hatchling, was a late addition to the game. Originally the player would just enter part 2 directly from the Great Queen's entrance. But that felt too easy. I created the character of Twist both to make a good capstone to part 1, and to remind the player that they are now a true predator who must fight others for territory. Nature is often unfair. Poor Twist was born with a club foot, a massive disadvantage. The player might feel inclined to pity it or try to save it, but those are human reactions. Part of success in nature is the courage to stand up for oneself and take what one needs without regret. Fighting Twist is good and right, and if the player does not, another drag will. Pitying Twist, who is trying its best to be strong despite its handicap, is probably the most insulting thing the player can do. There's a crippled foot. This part 1 location is a doorway to part 2, and I wanted it to look like a gate or doorway as much as possible, while still being a forest and not an artifice. I asked Rachel to put the shapes of wolves and deers in the tree branches to presage the wolf and deer subplots in part 2. Did you notice them? I did not until I read this, but now I I mentioned it when we saw it. This part 1 encounter enables the player to get the shake stick. The stick itself is a dwarven sonic mining tool and comes in quite handy in part 1 and 2 in treasure gathering scenes, and in combat as well. Here I hinted at the presence of a more advanced underground civilization, and also at the progress of human industry and how it changes the land. The dialogue with the orcs is also fun to imagine. Grass, yummy grass. This part 1 encounter with the human children is the first of several scenes through the game which attempt to capture real human life. Real human life. This is important in the overall arc, as humans are often represented as enemies, but the wise player will see that there are many sides to them, making some of the more unusual endings more attractive. As a child, I often felt distanced from others and not too attracted to the games other children play. The child on the bank is a homage to that. The scene design is also a mirror of sorts. A dragon child is watching human children, and it gives us an impression of life as a child in both species at once. I admitted to being proud of the scene design and the way it juxtaposed the dragon perspective with the spider's eyes. I'm losing it, I'm almost done. I admit to being proud of this scene design and the way it juxtaposes the dragon's perspective with the spiders. Despite the fact that I was terrified of spiders for much of my life, I now try to see them as just as good and beautiful as anything else. The web of an orb weaver is certainly a thing of great beauty. A clue to unlocking a secret ending is hidden in this scene. The mysterious brightlings of the game have many names in world mythology: elves, fairies, immortals, nymphs. Their purpose are inscrutable, but the mythology seem to agree that they do love to dance, and occasionally more than dance, with men. This foreshadows the Brightling sub-quest in Part 2, but in a game that's largely free from gender concepts, such as dragons don't have social gender constructs or recognize sexes outside of mating season. This scene also gave me a rare chance to portray a more human sense of love and sensuality, and how baffling that would be to a dragon. By making a human dark and the elves light, I was attempting to create a kind of living yin-yang dance, replicating the dual yet inextricable nature of darkness and light, positive and negativity. Revolution and stasis, not negativity, positive and negative. Revolution and stasis. Near loves the female form. Asking him to draw the scene was certainly wise, not a statement. Whatever, I'm not getting into that. I deeply admire many of our white brothers and sisters here on Earth, but of them all, wolves are by far the most dear to me. I couldn't wait to include them in the Golden Treasure, and this scene introduces them, foresharing the wolf sub-quest in Part 2. Wolves are great singers, and as I have been a singer all my life, I wanted to capture the essence of the white music in this image. Rachel brought my design to life beautifully. Deer have a certain nobility in them, and I decided to use them in the story as an example of nobility by service rather than power by blood. Power or blood. When I think about it, the whole process of growing beautiful branching horns from one's head only to shed and regrow them seems magical, and their horns are called crowns in the game. Spiritually, you also can see the females have them as well as males. This scene foreshadows a deer subquest in Part 2, but also introduces the idea that even prey animals can be masters of reality in their own way. This was Angie's first scene for us, and I love it. There's a richness to her art, not easily found elsewhere. This beautiful scene, masterfully done by Rachel, was both an homage and a parody of the kind of discussions one gets into when one is a student of philosophy. As much as I love such conversations, I admit that they can be so convoluted and clever that they miss the truth entirely. Herons are one of my favorite animals, so graceful and stately. Their movements are slow and deliberate, and they can seem to be frozen in meditation as they stand still in the water, so I made them a race of philosophers. The mists and white border make it seem more thoughtful and mystical. I wanted to capture an almost gore feeling, and Rachel did not disappoint. I don't know what some of these words mean. Affectionately dubbed Valhalla Badger by the team, this character was a favorite of many. Badgers are in many ways the Vikings of nature, fearing no foe and seeming to welcome any challenge, even unto death. For the player to encounter it as a child, it served two purposes. First, it introduces the question of what is a good death actually is, a question which still perplexes most of the human race, and second, it points out that strength is not just physical but can also be present in one's mind and spirit. May we all have the courage to meet death with clean, bright eyes and an open heart, wherever an afterlife exists or not. Such is the poetry of life, is it not? This is a water elemental, half otter, half trout, in appearance. Its whole body makes a circle, the symbol of water. The riddles in this scene ask the player to think of themselves as though they were water itself. I'm very pleased with the work Sam did in bringing the scene to life. He would continue on to become an invaluable artistic asset, despite the fact that he was still in school. If this is the kind of work one does at 20, I can't imagine what he'd be doing 20 or 30 or 40 years on. This scene was about light and darkness, and how all life is light shining in the darkness of infinite space. Here that symbolism becomes literal. While they aren't individually very smart, a field full of fireflies at dusk is a living miracle. In their song we get a hint of the In their song we get a hint of the spiritual... I know the words. In the song we get a hint of nature which will be fleshed out later in the later game. Whatever. They believe themselves sun's messengers, reminding all beings of the light they carry invisibly within themselves. We fireflies probably do not think about that, but it doesn't matter. Their entire existence is a testament to the magic of life. Darktooth is one of the central characters of the overall plot arc of The Great Green. Whenever I describe him or wrote from his perspective, yes, he's a he, and one of the only 2 dragons in the base game whose sex is known, mentioned in Part 2 event, the other being the player's dead mother. I try to imagine having witnessed centuries and come out of the experience with such a wide perspective that I could effectively see in 4 dimensions. The name is a homage to one of my favorite fictional dragons whose German name translated into Darktooth in English, and who was very wise, not to mention blue. So similarities end there, however. I doubt Darktooth will be elected President of the United Canadian American States. More the pity. The Starry Night scene, as we call it, is a love letter to light itself, which surrounds us in our darkness with the stars everywhere we look, and to the elements which comprise the void. You can see all 4 element colors swirling in the nebula clouds, twinkling in the individual stars. I believe that this was Sam's first full image for us. He was practically a teenager at the time, and I wasn't sure if he could bring the beauty of the scene which I had in my mind onto the screen. I'm no longer in doubt. The player's first view of the childhood home to be, and a shelter from the oncoming storm. I had fun imagining what rain would feel like to a newborn dragon. This scene introduces humans and the threat they pose to the dragon's sovereignty. Seeing a mature dragon killed by them serves as a warning to the player not to underestimate humans. They don't play by the traditional rules, and the cleverness and unpredictability makes them very, very dangerous. This dragon was the Emerald Flame, previous owner of the Spirit Wood, and the player's mother, the voice in the hatchling sequence. As cliché as it may be to have the protagonist lose a parent early on, all dragons are effectively orphaned from the moment they hatch. As wild predators, they all compete with each other and are raised by nature alone. Any rage a player might feel at the mother's death is more a matter of draconic pride than familiar love. Still, I was surprised at how many players choose to attack the humans here, even repeatedly, to the point of death. The image given here of humans as darkened, inimical killers would come to be questioned in later parts of the game. I don't know if the silver food does anything. That's it. I don't know. I've never figured out what to do with it. You can actually take it. If you start in chapter 2, you can start with it. I mean, if you can start in chapter 3, you can start with it. So you can have it in chapter 3, but I wouldn't know where to use it. So I don't know. Rachel originally made this as a sepia drawing, and Sam painted it in full color later as an upgrade. It serves as a transition between the magpie scene and what we charmingly call the dead parent scene. Our lives are filled with magpies. They are the ones who mock and jeer from the sidelines, as truer souls strive for truth and goodness. Tempting as it may be to strike back at them, I believe that it's best to ignore the magpies of life. To attack them is a waste of time and effort, and drags one down to their level. Note the spirit lines. Magpies are strong with water and air, and you can see its halo, a representation of its mind, forming above its head. The first artifact in the game can be won here, and if you can get the magpie to divulge its secret, something even greater awaits very soon. This was one of the first scenes I created in my imagination, while formulating what would eventually become Golden Treasure, the Great Green. This moment of a hatchling dragon emerging from the cave of its birth to see the white void stretching before it is the very call to adventure itself. Note the elements present in the animated version. The mountains are green squares, the rivers have blue circles in them, and the wind contains silver spirals. Dragons see not only forms, but also spirits when they sense the void. Jumping off from here is a rather foolish thing to do, but we all begin life's adventure naked, without knowledge. To reach for the sky before one can hold it is not unnecessarily a bad thing. This is the player's dragon's body, seen for the first time. All dragon hatchlings are coppery colored when hatched. They take on individual colorations after the first hibernation. The heart of the Golden Treasure is taking one The heart of the golden treasure is the taking on of a new self, including a new body. To some, dragons symbolize power and freedom, and to others, destruction and evil. How would it make you feel to see something like this when you looked in the mirror instead of your usual self? One being's nightmare is another's dream. The second backbone after hatching. While most of the images in Golden Treasure are IF images, a few are more quickly done and lack the layers, detail and edgework of an IF images. We call such images speed paints, and this is the first speed paint to appear in the game. I wanted players' form and face still be a little unclear, both to add weight to the coming reflection in the water and to symbolize a newly hatched dragon's senses still adjusting to reality. We call fully painted, layered and parallaxed images IF, interactive fiction images. Designated them as paintings made to go with a particular part of the interactive story of Golden Treasure. This is the first one which appears in the game. The player is still blurry and sticky, still getting his or her bearings. Rachel did an amazing job with the actual interior. I told her to make it like Mother of Pearl, but she made it something more akin to Mother of Magic, an excellent point of origin for the life of a dragon. So not quite. An egg. Life, waiting to her. This is the answer to Tolkien's riddle and the Golden Treasure. It holds a new being, a new experience of reality which has never existed before. I'm very pleased that this has become an unofficial symbol of the game. What is more precious than a journey about to begin? Rachel painted this as she did most of the images. I will forever be indebted to her for her indispensable role in taking Golden Treasure as a great dream from dream to reality. I think that's all of it. I started not at the end, but I think it was all of. Where did I start? I started at the door. What? Nactus and several other dragons, yeah. All is visible must grow beyond itself and extend into the realm of the invisible. A quote from one of my favorite films, and one which I often return to in my heart. The stars are her skills. Next time you look at the stars, try to see her. She's there, my friends. She's there. It is fitting that a kin's reach should exceed their grasp. These are just the normal lines. Yeah. These are, I guess I will just scroll through them. Once. Oh yeah, there's the new ones. Shh. Oh yeah, I guess I haven't unlocked a lot of these, but in this scene, which represents the beginning of the mating season, the stately cranes finally get a moment in the sun, literally. One of the challenges of the DLC was to portray dragon reproduction poetically. Creation is, for dragons, a very serious process, and the elegant dance of courting cranes seem to perfectly symbolize the onset of the time of creation. As always, I wanted to show the spiritual side as much as the physical. Note that cranes' bodies are forming the dragon symbol for creation. But the only potential partner who is guaranteed to appear during the time of creation is very romantic by human standards, physically beautiful, eloquent, and very into the player. Dragons, however, have a rather different idea of what makes a good mating partner. Deeply pragmatic and used to thinking in long term, the kin can appreciate beauty, but strengths and especially success are far more attractive to them. Bard scores low on both counts. It is a nomad, a dragon without a territory to call its own, and such dragons very rarely are chosen as mating partners. Knowing this, Bard is propositioning younger kin and attempting to overwhelm them with poetry in hopes of being chosen by at least someone this season. A wise dragon may not be moved to pity or lust on account of such things. Still, it's nice to know that the Spirit Keeper has at least one fan. So even he is like, don't. Oh, this doesn't have text. Lame. You don't get anything on Vantage, okay. Bloom. I don't know how you get to... Maybe you need to defeat Bloom and not die. Whatever. That's as much as I can get out of this game, I think. We have done everything I can possibly do. Well, not... We have done enough. My throat's killing me. Thank you for watching. Now that truly was Golden Treasures, the Great Green. And may you be blessed.